So listen, Andrew, this is the Common Sense podcast. I'm delighted to have you on. It's been, without knowing yet, I've obviously stumbled across on the Netflix and YouTube, your programs, and always thought to myself, wow, what a job that must be. Exciting, dangerous, all at the same time, interesting. How did you end up go from running a successful business to...
Well, just counts, lad, a bit like you, come from a shit life, all boys school, very difficult. You know, it's like you're trying to avoid getting beaten up in all boys school, but in a council estate. So the normal stuff, you probably can empathise with that because part of your life was a council estate. Never supposed to achieve anything, always told I wasn't. Dad wanted me to paint and decorate, but I didn't want that. I thought I had a little bit more up here than that. Always knew something, and I think a big thing changed in my life. My brother got leukemia. He was a year younger, I was 11, he was 10, and he died. And I think from that point, and it makes me emotional now, I felt that I needed to live my life for two people. And I think it just started from there. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, because we don't, do we? We just you just do what you do. I was a painter and decorator, carried on, but it just wasn't enough. It really, really wasn't. I tried to join the police, and thank Christ I didn't. I'm really glad I got in, and then Thatcher decided no cadets. So that was it. So that was my bit of adventure I thought I was going to get. Then I stumbled on a trip to Uganda. I went with my cousin. I just wanted to do something a bit different. Life was a bit boring. You know how it is. I mean, you had football. You always had that.
I was lucky, yeah. I always had that dream, and the opportunity was there.
I had no dreams.
But I also was thinking, like, what happens if this goes wrong because of the high percentage of failure in that chosen profession? It's...
Well, you can come join me as a builder if you want. I've got a building company. You can always... But
so you left school straight into the building trade?
I did. I was an apprentice decorator. I didn't like it. I hated it. My dad told me how to do it. He got me a job in the council. Then he got a job with my uncle. And I actually hated it. It wasn't me. I thought there was a little bit more to me. I wanted to do something. I wanted to be somebody. I wanted to be somebody. I didn't want to be what they all told me. You're not going to be nothing. My dad would have been happy down the working men's club, have a few beers. And that's it. My dad kind of drunk and smoked himself to death.
What was his trade? What was
he was a decorator.
All right.
So we had no choice. So that's all he knew.
Have you read The Ragged Trousered Philanthropist?
It
sounds a bit like that
Robert
tale
Trestle.
there, yeah. Where people kind of get stuck in. And I know loads of people like that, grew up with people like that in my family who they're just happy going from A to B to C. And then the freaks are born who go, no, this is not for me.
Yeah.
Now, for me, it was my grandmother that really sparked that in me. You're saying the tragic loss of your brother. You get something or someone or a moment in your life where that you've got to go one way or the other. You had a kind of fork in the crossroads.
Do you know that's a trigger we all have?
Well, yeah, some people never ever get to that. No. I see it as it can be through tragedy, as it was with you, or it can be through hardship, or maybe a parent divorcing, as it was with me. But somehow, the lights and the flicks and the switches go on, and you end up getting out and going on a completely, I always call it climbing without ropes type path. There's no one in front of you who's ever done it. There's a few people who've tried and fell off the mountain at different points, but there's nobody I knew in my family who had basically climbed to the top of the mountain.
Doesn't it feel good when you get to there?
Well, it'd be nice. It would have been nice, I think, if I had somebody show me the way, like hopefully my boys would have with me, or I could show other people, and I have done when I've coached. But also, there is an element of sometimes you just got to fall off and get the bruises. You've just got to make sure they're not catastrophic.
Do you ever feel you're not worthy? Because I do. What I've achieved, and I've got BAFTA nomination, Netflix. I've got a film out now on Amazon that we took 7 years to film. I still feel like I'm a bit of a con artist, and I don't know why. Why is that?
I think that's probably the ambition, the latent ambition that lies inside you. Yeah. I would imagine. I think you go through spells where, and that's probably the healthy part of your character, that you don't get too sedentary, that you don't get too happy with your lot, as it was. I'm born into a family that was meant to be a kind of manual labourers. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Where we grew up was kind of people who were to pick spuds out the field, let's be honest. As long as you got the skill set to be able to do that, and then obviously the Industrial Revolution kicks in. And for me, it was always about, am I going to be lucky enough to get paid to play football? I had done it for nothing. So it was never ever a job to me. In the end, and then you want to win at it, and then it becomes like a real competitive element. So that's how I'm looking at you going, right, you've left, you didn't really have an idea, you've left school, but you've ended up being successful going into the business and sorting yourself a kind of manual labouring job.
Become a director, and I employ 40 people now, so time moved on, but my travel allowed me to do that. and becoming a journalist. So I went to Uganda on a guerrilla trekking holiday, and totally I just wasn't interested. I wanted to go to Afghanistan. I didn't want to go to Uganda. So I went up to the Fosse mountains to spend time with these mountain gorillas. They were great, but they were big, black and hairy. And I wasn't really that bothered by them. But there was somebody said to me, a guy called Patrick, he'd been in the wars because Uganda had a civil war, the Lord's Resistance Army.
Idi Amin, was that him?
Idi Amin was there, yeah. It wasn't when I was there, obviously. I'm that little bit younger
Last
than
King
that.
of Scotland.
Yeah. So his regime, the Indians had gone from Kampala and they'd come back. So it was kind of a bit of a change, but they were still fighting. But across the border in the mountains where the guerrillas were, was what was which is known as Congo Republic. So I had an opportunity to go to a war zone, albeit just on the edge of it. And we climbed over the top of the mountain, myself and my cousin, didn't really think much of it, pair of pricks really. Got to the other side and it was like Eden. You know, we walked through a banana plantation and we said we got to get to the first village to actually say we'd been anywhere. So we got to the first village and then a man came out of these bushes, of these banana plants with a knife, and he chased us. And our guide said, you better run, he's going to kill you. But it wasn't nothing massive because he stopped running. It was just that ignition. I actually loved the danger, the fear. I loved that adrenaline it
Probably
put into me.
takes you back to the council estates, doesn't it, where that is...
Yeah,
that is on the edge like that.
But I wasn't a hard man. I was quite a nice guy. I tried to avoid the fights. I'd not really had that amount of courage. I wasn't one of these guys that wanted to fight.
Yeah, but you have to grow up learning what to avoid.
Yeah.
Listen, there's some people who get caught up in the rough and tumble. They don't tend to last long. You know, if you keep finding conflict, eventually you end up in a pickle.
But I went looking for it.
Yeah, for you, it seems like that sense of adventure. But that's what I'm saying to you. How'd you go from, you know, having a trade and getting into something where you can make a few shilling and go for a few pints and, you know, get your clothes and have a nice existence, similar existence to what your forefathers, by the looks of it, had. What is it about you that makes you go, do you know what, this is not for me, I'm going to go in this completely different direction, which has led you down this kind of dark tourism route?
Weird, because I think just life sent me there.
Okay.
I think just life in itself, it was a natural path. I think it was supposed to happen. I'm not a spirit. Well, I don't know if I'm a spiritual guy. I'm not a God bother or anything, but something tells me there's something inside spiritually that, I don't know, I mean, it drifted me away. But when I came...
What religion was you growing up?
I don't think my dad had a religion. My dad, you know what it's like on the council house?
Catholic?
Yeah, no, we were supposed to be Protestant, but...
What was your school
Church
called?
of England. It was Heronwood School. Heronwood Borstal, I call it. It was a shit.
And what part of the world is that, Andrew?
That's in Aldershot.
Aldershot.
Home
so
of the British
military.
Army.
All right.
Yeah.
So you can see how, like, obviously us Northerners, we get a bit more religious kind of base schools.
Ah, yeah, you're Catholics up here, aren't you?
Well, Catholic or Protestants,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? But it doesn't really go as much as what it does even further north. But obviously, I think that if you're in the military towns south, you know, the country comes first, doesn't it?
It does, and it still does. But coming around, and when I came back from that trip, I kind of, something happened to me inside, because most people would go, shit, that was scary, but I went out and looked for more and more, and I wanted more extreme, and I wanted frontline war. I wanted to actually experience, you know, I think I saw you on a podcast saying you like history, you like that. To experience war, speak frontline with people shooting at you is something, you know, completely different in anyone's life.
Yeah, but did you try to join up with the military then? Did you try and get in one of the regiments?
No, I think I've seen more action than most soldiers.
Probably, yeah.
I have. I've seen, you know, I've been a Raqqa, where ISIS were. I mean, Mosul as they were driving them out. So I've been frontline of anywhere anyway. So I don't think military. I don't think I would have put up with it. If someone told me to do something, I don't think I'd have done it.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? You've got to have that obedience at some level.
I ain't got it.
Yeah. And as it was, but you've still got that yearning to do it in terms of... I always think if you were going there anyway, well, you might as well be trained and tooled up if you're going to go and see it.
I didn't get tooled up. Fun enough, didn't even have a flak jacket on most of the times. I can take you back to my first front line in Iraq, Second Iraq War. I was in a place called Erbil.
So it's about 92, 90, something like that?
A little bit later than that.
A little bit later.
Yeah, a little bit later.
I remember this. This is the second Bush, isn't it? This is
yeah, this is ISIS. This is not the Taliban.
Not the first one. Not the first Bush.
You know, ISIS took over from. You had the good old Taliban in them days.
Well, we had one in about. Where do we have one? About 91.
91
was Sarajevo. Did we have it? When was the first Iraq conflict?
Jesus
first George
Christ.
Bush.
That was the first George Bush. That would have been
early 90s, wasn't it?
Late 80s, early 90s. That'd been 91, 92.
So this is the second conflict.
Yeah, second conflict. Well, anyway, or beyond that. Because ISIS took back over in pockets of Iraq, and they're still in pockets now, ISX.
Has it changed again? As it was ISIL at one point.
ISIL, yeah. But they don't call them that. And anyway, this is a man this is a stupidity. Judge me on my stupidity. So I wanted to see Frontline. So I've left for Iraq, and I mean, how do you ask somebody? I've got a fixer over there and a taxi driver, and he's a taxi driver.
So what would be a fixer? What's a fixer? Somebody embedded in there in the culture.
Over the 30 years, you find a local you can trust because you actually trust in your life with them.
Yeah, how'd you do that?
Well, I just know people. I mean, this particular one, you talk, you talk like me, don't you? We talk to anybody. That's our council background. We're used to conversing. We talk to anybody, talk to somebody in a bar.
Yeah, you need it,
yeah, it's talking to bars, talk to the guy in the newspaper stand, drink with a cup of tea. And I got a whole library of different people, which has helped me through my media stuff. But this particular time, I wanted to go and see Frontline. I'll tell you about it because it's just pure stupidity and it makes me cringe. I nearly lost my marriage because of it. So I've left my family behind. It's just before Christmas time. I said goodbye to the wife, and she said, "We're just going to Iraq. Don't worry, it's safe." Even though knowing I felt terribly guilty. Even now, I've got 4 kids. So I left. Yeah. I landed in the hotel, and my fixers arrived, and I said, "Look, I want proper stuff. I want to see frontline stuff. Please take me there. I want to go where the tanks are, where the bombs are going. I haven't seen it before." And he said, "You sure?" I goes, "Yeah." So we followed the Peshmerga around local, because it's funny enough, there's loads of people doing it. And they take you to little pockets of wars where ISIS have been active. Nothing, Peshmerga, nothing going on. And I get rat-arsed, got about a week left to go. I got in a taxi as normal. My fixer's come on board. He said, "There's been activity last night just inside Kirkuk, but you can't go because you're out of the restricted zones." So we went, and I said, "Well, I've got to go. I really want to experience this." So he took me in and out of people's back gardens. So he come off the main road because it's in squares in Iraq. It's sandy squares, so you can go around backs so we can avoid checkpoints. And we eventually got past the burning oil wells into Kirkuk, and we couldn't find it. He got lost. Not a place that ISIS. I mean, at that time, they were there. ISIS were there. They're in Kirkuk.
How many ISIS soldiers will be there at that point?
Thousands, hundreds.
Okay.
Kirkuk's infiltrated by him. Yeah. So we stopped and asked directions. Can you believe that? Can you show me the way of the war? So we pulled over and we asked people, where's the battle last night? The guy knew who was safe and not safe. And then we saw Turkmen TV. They were going to, they were going to report on it. So we followed them, and my arse is going, absolutely going. I thought I want to do it, and in my mind told me don't go. But we followed it. We were on the main motorway road, took a sharp right, and then started seeing these tanks and these noises, heavy explosion, heavy artillery, as we went down the road, and I'm gone. I thought, I don't ever really want to do this, but it's like bravado. You got to go, ain't you? You've asked for it.
Far in, aren't you? I would just turn around and say, "Can you take me back?"
You wouldn't.
It's tough.
You wouldn't, but I went. Tanks as we're going, and as I got to the farthest point, it stopped. I thought, oh, fuck, I've missed it. It's sad, isn't it? And then as we were going, it's the Abbas militia come and greeted me and said, "What the fuck are you doing here? You're an idiot." I think it was 2,000 kilometres in the distance. He said, "Well, that's the Islamic State. That's the village they're in. They're in our village. And that's it. We're trying to get it back." There were local farmers, mechanics, teachers looking at their houses. Heavy machinery where we were. But I was a bit disappointed. There was a big brick wall, which is a rampart, like old-fashioned. So you've got about a 6-7 foot wall with a load of machine gunnists behind there, machine gun points and other stuff.
It's easier ways to make a living,
But at that point, although I was disappointed because it wasn't going off, I climbed over and they said, "But there's a JCB just at the wall." And as I reached, there was a head on the wall. So they decapitated this head. And that freaked me out because I didn't really know what was going on. So I climbed over this wall, and the JCB was the remains of this suicide attack that come for that village. And that's what all the kerfuffle was overnight. And that's what the explosions were. And the day went on. And at that point, I wanted it to happen. That's mental, isn't it? There was a car full of explosives in no man's land between the village and between our front line. And our guys said, "But they've got to detonate it, otherwise ISIS will get back in it at night and blow a hole through the front line." So they went over, and then it started because ISIS noticed them. And they started and it was an almighty great massacre, and drones. And you know what?
Is the Allied forces here? Are they on the scene here? No.
This is just the Iraq.
And obviously
this is the villagers and ISIS. So it's gone off. It's gone off fucking big time. And I'm like, the news crew have given me a vest. I'm so amateur at it by that. I'm a bit different now because it's a long time ago. I had no plates in it, so I'm walking around with this undone up vest with no plates, no protection, thinking I'm okay.
And so our forces were on the ground here, or Allied forces, and mainly American and obviously the coalition.
Americans and the coalition, but this battle was their own. They had their own militia there because they're different militias.
But aren't they meant to be there kind of protecting Iraqi sovereignty or whatever it was?
They are,
people? Yeah.
But they got their own. But you know, this is quite a big old. This is quite a big old place. So it's gone off, and it was a massacre. I mean, it's the first time I'd actually really seen horrendous killing, and to visually see somebody, you know.
There's civilian casualties everywhere then, as well as armed casualties?
Well, these were armed casualties because this is ISIS coming over. And I can remember, and then it quietened down, I want to stay the night because I thought things had happened at night. And I started giggling on the front line as it went off. And I thought, I'm fucking nuts. This is absolutely mental. I'm nuts. I'm laughing. And I've got this euphoria and adrenaline. And then it worried me until I met a soldier and he said, it's natural. But then I also had the opportunity, they had a 50 caliber, and I looked down the sight of this rifle and he said, you can shoot anybody you won't get in trouble. Could you have done it? Knowing they're ISIS?
Yeah, probably, yeah. Probably. I don't know. I don't know till you're there, but yeah, probably.
No, I couldn't do it.
I mean, if you believe in what they're doing, do you know what I mean? And obviously at some point there's, you know, if you believe in the mission or you don't, I would imagine you either do or you don't.
For me, it was difficult because didn't want to really kill anyone. But
if it's ISIS, you'd understand that.
You come back, you're a criminal when you're here.
But again, I mean, if that's what you're led to believe, that, you know.
So even that, and then I spent the night there, and I spent a night in a hole, and it was it upset me even now because I spent a night with a guy that needed an interpreter. So he was the sniper for the night, and he had his 50 caliber rifle pointed at one house, and I asked him, Why you got your gun at that house? Why you got this sight on that? What is this? It's a true story. You can read it in the book. You can even see the video of it. And he told me, he said, because that's the house where my wife and children still are. And he said, that gun is pointing towards them. I want to see if my wife and children are still alive. And if I see someone coming out, I'll kill them. So he was looking for the last 2 years to see sight of his children, his family, or ISIS take control of his own house. I mean, that is some story, isn't it? And we don't realise that.
I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? When you know, government at the level it does interferes in the politics and the running of other countries. Well, again, I said to you earlier on, we're talking, you know, I'm a massive history fan. This is, you know, something that hasn't stopped. I'm reading this morning, a pal of mine sent me a book from, you know, the Falklands campaign and what gone on there, and, you know, how the parachute regiment was formed, and, you know this as well as anybody, being from the town you're from. Unfortunately for us, you know, there's been lots of decisions made for thousands of years, hundreds of years, by military, by monarchy, by government, to get ourselves engaged in, you know, from the opium wars in China to, you know, the Caribbean, the sugar plantations, to our empire. And unfortunately, today it still goes on. It just goes on in different theatres of war, you know, Iraq, Syria, where else have we been, Libya. The big worry for me is in the midst of doing this, we've weakened our own defences. You know, our country is vulnerable at this moment in time, as we sit here today, Andrew. 4 days ago, whatever it was, there's an Iranian terror cell arrested, or alleged Iranian terror cell arrested, merely 45 minutes up the road from us here in Rochdale. And this is the big concern for me, you know.
I'll tell you, I can help you with that.
Well, I'm going to say, you're off going all over the world. And actually,
but the MI5 I got involved with just recently to do with the Shamima stuff. We got no home protections. They got an answer phone. I had intelligence come back from a prison camp in Syria that gave me the address of someone in Beirut that wanted money from me. I went to MI5 and I rang them. This is true. I can show you all documentation. I said, I have an address of some. Remember, you've got what's going on with Hezbollah in Beirut. So this guy's address, his bank details. They didn't even ring me back. They didn't even call me back. So I thought I'd get on to my local MP, who's an also prick. I got hold of him, Conservative. I can't remember his name. I should do. Isn't it funny how things go out of your head? well known anyway, Conservative. He still just kept us in his Guildford guy. So I wrote to him. I said to him, look, I've got this name that's really worrying me. He gave me the Chief Police Commissioner of Surrey. This is an international thing, you prick. These people, Hezbollah are planning attacks. You've got the Israeli thing going on. You've got Beirut's gone off again. So you've got the IDF have gone into Beirut. I had a guy, a name, an address, wanted money. And they didn't even call me back.
So that's a thing, and we'll get to that because it's interesting, because I want to get into the details of like how you kind of get to these places and what goes on.
Right.
But before you go into these conflict zones, what's your mindset? How are you preparing mentally for that? Are you thinking, oh, this is going to be great, or are you preparing for, I might be taken hostage here, and all the eventualities?
I've had a hostage experience, but I shit myself. And I don't know why that desire. I think it's also bravado. And I think if you get into a position of, you're expected to be the hard man of football, and you are. So you kind of live that image, don't you?
I'm really, really
No,
not.
you were.
Yeah. No, I wasn't. I've never been the people who rip my head off. It's just perception. It's what gets told,
where you go. But then you start living that perception.
You.
So half of what you do in your continued travel, because you've created yourself a story. So you come to live with that story.
Part of the character.
It is. It's part of your character that you've become. So I go, but I have when I get on the plane, I'm shitting myself, scared, feel guilty to my wife, my kids. I love my family more than anything, but I still go, and I don't know why.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Have you ever gone somewhere and questioned your ethics of going into these conflict zones?
Yeah. When I came back from that trip that I just spoke about, I went back edited, and my wife looked over my shoulder, and she basically called me a 4-letter word beginning with C, and she doesn't even use the language.
Sometimes it's the most apt word, though, isn't it?
And I am. Because I've got kids and I'm running around, I'm editing, getting all excited, zooming in on, people being shot at, and I'm thinking, do you know what, I am? At that point, it could have been a turning point, but I didn't.
I think all people who go on to be even high achievers in some form or fashion have that. For me, you're away from you always feel that it's natural because you've got that empathy towards the people that you've left behind to get after what is a unique path. The climbing without ropes. Unfortunately, you can't take your kids on those journeys, especially when you go to the places you go to. It's even difficult for me in terms of getting them into access and in and around football grounds and stadiums.
Well, I wouldn't be here speaking to you, would I?
Well, you couldn't take them to a conflict zone, could you? And say, well, you stay in that hotel while I pop out here to this war. But
it's taken me everywhere. I mean, it's taken me, Ukraine, it's taken me to North Korea, Chechnya, Mogadishu, where I found you. I don't even seen the film Black Hawk Down.
I have, yeah.
I found the helicopter.
Yeah.
Bukhara Market in Mogadishu, first people ever to go as a tourist to Mogadishu. During the time they're still fighting, Shabab was still there fighting when we were there. That's another trip. It's in the book.
Yeah, I was going to say, imagine that's like the Wild West still out there.
We were given by an SAS guy who's looking after the airport 50-50 chance of coming home alive. I think at that point might have been where I've gone, do you know what, I might have pushed this too far.
So do you have someone with you who's carrying or who's can protect you?
No.
Because imagine like Ross Kemp, when you see him going in, and like they must have a few tooled up with them.
Ross Kemp's there.
I know. I'm just saying he goes with like the cocaine gangs.
I'd like to say something about that prick. He's as weak as dishwater. I'd like him to come with me when he hasn't got someone mummying him. I can remember there was one thing, I don't know where he was, and he's got hold of, mate, you're not going to shoot me. On his documentary, I thought, you're a complete prick, mate, because that's not how it works.
He was doing my tits in yesterday on the VE celebration day. Honestly, I was like, anyway, he was doing
I'm with you on that. Me and I watched that and I'm going, do you know what?
I had to turn over.
Yeah, me too, because I don't like him, because he's inlined himself with the Labour Party now, and I see him on some telephone with that queer Starmer. I can't stand him.
There's a few, Gary Neville, he was involved doing party political broadcasts. Power.
They're traitors to me. They're bloody traitors to me.
When you've been a nerd in school and then somebody says, oh, you're quite cool, they actually go, oh yeah, I am. And then, quite quickly, because of how easy corrupted they are morally.
They will stop and think, because I've seen what's coming. I've seen what's coming. I've seen the refugees. I've seen what's coming to us. So I know that side of it.
Yeah, it's interesting in terms of what's just happened in the by-elections. I know you can't really judge it, but it certainly says there's a wind of change, or people aren't happy with what's going on. I checked out at the last election, Andrew. I said, I'm spoiling my ballot. I don't trust any of them. They're all as bad as each other.
You didn't do a knob picture, did you? Like a lot of people said on those election by-elections, people drew knobs on their pictures.
No, I just spoiled my ballot. I thought, I'm not voting for any of you. Loads of people were saying, vote Reform. I was like, I ain't voting for Farage.
I don't like him. Farage. I think he's a sellout. I don't think he's actually going to produce what he says.
Yeah, do you know what, mate? I'm kind of with you on that. I just don't trust him.
Well,
And
Trump's
as I
gone
say
off
to you,
him.
for me, watching Brexit unfold was interesting, and then COVID. COVID was a huge turning point for me because I always studied wars. I was like, how did that happen? How did they allow that to happen? And COVID made me realise actually really, really quickly. Viktor Frankl's kind of Buchmann Search for Meaning, some of the reading I was doing at the time, really pointed me in the direction of, those people who had masks on in the car driving on their own, those people who were phoning. Andrew's had 3 walks a day. Well, they were the same people who would be given the SS and the Gestapo. That's where they are.
Yeah, exactly.
As I say, it was interesting you mentioned it before. I won't name his name, but there's a surgeon who fixed one of the broken bones in my body, and he was a doctor in Yugoslavia, or I think it was that conflict, Sarajevo, and all that. You remember that? The first war I can remember. And
I've been there.
He told me about some of the things that went on in terms of the ethnic cleansing. Obviously, he was there as part of the UN peacekeeping force, and you always think, how does that happen? And he was saying literally neighbours, people who'd lived alongside each other for 20, 30 years, overnight when a dividing line came, were executing and doing absolutely horrific things to people who they'd lived alongside for a long, long time.
It's amazing how people can do that.
Well, COVID made me realise that there's a lot of people who, given that little bit of power, that little bit of influence, and malevolent with it. And Jordan Peterson, I think, sums it up perfectly well with his quote. And even he's got to be questioned at the minute of a society growing strong. It's not because strong men are taken down. No, it's because strong men decide not to use the power. And it brings me back to Vladimir Putin. We were talking there before about Ukraine. How did you end up there, and where did you end up?
Well, I've been there about 15, 20 years ago before the Russians went in. So I was in the Crimea before there was anything, before it was all Ukraine. But one thing I will say, and my mate Vitaly won't like me for this, but it was all Russian. From Yalta and all down to Odessa, they were Russian-speaking, 100% Russian people. Wanted to be part of Russia. Didn't want to be part. You've got
the big military base on Crimea as well, haven't you? Sevastopol or something like that?
In the Donbass. So I always had this bit of history there. I ended up there to rescue a bear during the war, like a mountain bear. So
So first it was gorillas, and then it was the bears.
I don't like gorillas. Well, they're a nice animal, but
I was going to ask you. There's a thing doing around on social media that 100. I'm not even. I'll ask you at the end. 100 men versus a gorilla. Have you seen it? It's doing my
wrestling them?
Oh yeah. Anyway, don't. It's social media trend that's
fucking
going.
Won't want to wrestle a bear. I believe. Well, anyway, when the war started and everybody was getting kind of panicky, the Russians were just outside Kyiv.
Yeah.
I had a mental South African guy said, "Look, we've got this circus bear that was tortured and it's in a farm and they're bombing around there. Will you come with me because you've got a bit of experience with war?" That was only about, 4, 5, 6 years ago. No, it's less than that. It's 3 years ago, wasn't it? 4 years, I don't know.
Must have been 2021, 22, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, so when it first went in, I went in because I wanted to find a way to go to the war. I had to have a reason, not just go and view. I wanted to be, at least I've got a reason to go there.
So is this when for a while we had troops were stationed and he was building up? Is this when you're trying to get out there then? Before it kicks off? Or
no, I want to get it once it kicked off.
All right.
So I wanted a reason to go in there.
And you're thinking it's going to be over relatively quickly, so you can't...
I thought the Russians were going to be in there, yeah. I thought that was it. It was all over and done with.
It was meant to be a 3-day war, wasn't it? So you're thinking, I don't want to fucking
miss this. No, I'm over there. I'm off. So I went to rescue this bear. He was in Lviv, and the SAS or English, it was only English troops got killed.
So was that your beard to get in the country? You're going for the bear?
Yeah. Well, we were fucking shit.
Same for Uganda as well. Let's go and see the animals.
Well, we were shit at rescuing the bear anyway. So me, him and my mate Richard, we got on this large transit van we've hired from Romania, and we decided we're going to bear, and we got this cage. So we're all kitted up for this bear rescue. No experience between any of us. The South African said he'd rescued bears before, but he's a fucking liar. But so we went to this farm. The farm had a lion as you walked in. I thought, Jesus, this wasn't a farm. They normally have cows, don't they? And he took us to this compound where the bear was. And he wanted rid of the bear because he said he was going to shoot him otherwise. And this lovely South African guy, he wanted, he didn't want it to die because he loves animals. I don't mind him, got a dog. And we went up to this farm, and this fucking bear, he's about 6'4", 7'4", he's humongous, great thing. I'm going, you're having a laugh. He said, don't worry, we've got a vet. He's going to come and tranquilise it. We'll get in on this little stretcher and all of us lot will pour him in the back of the van, put him in the cage. And the bombs are going off. So the war's going on, and I speak to my mate, Special Forces. He's one of my mates that's over there. And he was on the front lines doing stuff with the BBC. And he was more interested in our bear rescue. And so was the journalist wanted to come over and do something with us and this fucking bear in the war. So we've got hold of this bear, they tranquilised it, and it's out for the count. And we thought, lovely, ain't too bad. Got it on a stretcher, and the fucker got up. It decided the tranquiliser wasn't enough. So I thought, oh, fuck. The South African kept hold of his end of the stretcher. I kept hold of mine. I thought, oh, I'm not going. If you ain't going, I ain't going. The other two fucked off. But so we had like this bear, and the vet give it another one, and we put him in the back of the van and drove from Ukraine back into Romania. But we weren't very good neither, because we forgot the bear's piss, and we put all our kit in the back of the tranny, like our bags and shit like that. And the bear's been pissing for 2 nights, and we ain't gone for our gear, so all my clothes and floating in bear piss. And the bear's got fucked off with us, so every time we open the door, he's fucking rattling around. But it did keep the Ukrainians amused on the borderline. There were some sad scenes though. As I got on I'm a journalist by then, and I'm used to reporting. I mean, I had women sort of draping themselves around me, crying because of what was happening to their lives. It was just amazing.
So the
those
Russians
scenes.
were really heavy-handed when they came in.
No, they were bombing. People had died. Her husband had been blown up. This woman, so she come straight from the house, escaped, and it was just a horrendous scene at that border. They were queuing up to get over the border. We had the bear in the back, and we had to try and get through. And it was just, that was my first indication. And I think maybe Klitschko got the ear of it and thinks I'm fucking nuts. So that's how we got into the Ukraine. And then Klitschko, I kind of wrote to him, as you do, a bit like I did with the Ku Klux Klan, just wrote a letter to them and asked, can I come visit you?
And they just reply, yeah?
Well, yeah, the Ku Klux Klan were a bit more difficult, but Klitschko, his office did, and invited me in, and I thought then, are you fucking joking? I'm Andrew from a council estate, and I got Klitschko, one of the most powerful men in Ukraine, probably more than Zelensky, who's a puppet.
The mayor of Kiev or something?
Yeah, he's a
like
mayor,
that?
Yeah. He's a humongous, I've got pictures, humongous. Aldershot kit on, I know you love Aldershot.
Aldershot, yeah. We'll get to that.
Tommy Whittington. So he's got, and we just, I shat myself. More nervous than I am now with you, Joe, would you believe that?
Imagine, well, he's heavyweight world champion, mate.
I was like, not scared of him, but I was just frightened.
He's a legend of the sporting world, isn't he? He was the main man for a long period.
And he's a fucking giant.
And he's a legitimate giant. I think, are they not? They must be Soviet experiments, then, boys.
Well, they were from the Soviet.
That's what I mean. When Ukraine was part of the Soviet system.
He changed Vitaly. I mean, because he was obviously, his dad was a Russian pilot, so he loved Russia. Come over to Ukraine, stayed on, and it was only because he went to Disney World. This is true. Klitschko went to Disney World, come back and changed his tune about Russia, and part of the Orange Revolution inside Kyiv, and then he changed to what he is now.
Yeah, it's a strange... I was watching the Oliver Stone documentaries with Putin, and I thought it was fascinating TV, all off the back of that, and what they spoke about. So it just gave me that different perspective on the conflict. Like, when it first started, you're like, wow, this is harsh on the Ukrainians. But also there is lots of geopolitical issues.
You have to understand
the same in
that.
Syria, same in all the other conflict zones.
Syria,
there's big politics at play, whether it's China, USA, or the EU.
Spent 6 years in Syria, I can tell you about that place, which we'll do because we're going about Shamima.
I was going to say to you there, what's the closest when you've been out on an assignment that you've come to death?
Quite a few times. A front line, I'd have said maybe trying to cross from Iraq into Iran. I thought I got taken hostage. We kept a day in a hangar, not let out, don't know why. Mate, he let us free and bought us a kebab.
What forces was
it?
Don't know.
Haven't got a clue. We were loaded with, I was trying to escape out. We had a price tag put on our head, myself and my cousin, 100 grand price tag on our head. And we were told by Americans inside, I can't remember, it's someplace inside Iraq, said to leave. So we tried to leave through Iran, really safe place to go in it. I know, we go for Iran, because that's a good place to get out.
Yeah, there's a bit of a religious regime there.
It seemed to be all right then, but then we got into no man's land and they locked us up. For a long time. It felt like 24 hours a day, and I thought that was it. I'd been done by somebody, but we didn't. As I say, we just got released. I thought that was pretty close. My arse went on that. Last visit to Ukraine, sitting on a balcony, I could see missiles coming across. I was supposed to interview Klitschko the next day. It hit a building probably, I don't know, mile away, which isn't far on a missile. That was close.
Do you ever sit there and think, why the fucking hell have I come here?
Yeah.
Like, you know, why I could die here, like I'm literally...
Yeah, all the time, but that's probably part of the reason you do it.
The addiction kicks in, the thrill seeker in you kicks in.
Yeah, listen, I had a heart attack about 3 years ago. Now that kind of put things in perspective. Because if I hadn't done all this, and I'd become quite known because of Shamima, and I'd become something I've always wanted to be, somebody like you are. Yeah. A nobody to somebody is a big thing in our life. Council estate to somebody.
So you're like... I'm happy to die in pursuit of what I love doing. You know, you get your kicks out of it, yeah. So I can sense that out of you. Obviously, you're more likely to die. We're all going to die. That's a great stoic position. Yeah. But, you know, obviously that you can increase or decrease your chances by visiting frontline war zones.
I mean, it's not my fault now. It's like TV companies and media companies, which I fucking hate now. Do you want to go on about Shamima? Because she's the elephant in the room, isn't she?
I mean,
unless you want some other stuff.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because I said, you know, one of the questions I had for you was, how do you kind of balance that empathy, you know, based on, you know, remaining objective when you're documenting people who are, you know, maybe on, or history will judge them to maybe be on the wrong side of history, like Shamima Begum? Well,
when I first met her, I actually felt sorry for her. The most embarrassing thing I've done in my 30 years of doing this war zone and this danger zone and dark tourism shit is the time that I gave her a hug. At the time, it was for the right reason, but now I feel ashamed and embarrassed that I ever did it. So when I see that picture, when I go on TV channel, I'll put it out there and it's all there. But that was the catalyst to me
but there's still
doing
a
the
human,
other stuff.
You know, regardless of her beliefs and you know what she believes. She's still a human being. I'd be more interested in finding out, how did that come about in terms of how has she ended up where she's ended up?
Well, kind of know. I mean, there's nobody knows her better than I do.
So Shamima Begum is famous. I don't know what part of England she's from.
She's from Bethnal Green in London.
On her? Is she from Bethnal Green?
She's from Bethnal Green in London. It's kind of big Islamic centre. Father's Bangladeshi. Wahhabist, her father is, which is the extreme form of being a Muslim, and most of ISIS are Wahhabists. So when I go back to the olden days, bring us back about 500 years. So she lived in
Sharia law, and
like Sharia law and that sort of. So that's where she comes from, kind of that Bethnal Green area. You'd all have seen the picture where 3 girls left in the airport. We all see those pictures of the 3 friends leaving for Syria.
Yeah, they've been groomed online. The first kind of cases of allegedly groomed online.
That's what everybody says.
ISIS?
Yeah, but this is what these lefties all think, and they see Shamima and they go, do you know what? She's a young 15-year-old girl. She was radicalised online. That's what they all think, and these lefties love it.
I'm with you. I'm trying to find it. Yeah. But she is, by definition, Andrew. Like, she is 15, so I know what you're saying. You know, 15-year-olds kind of know what to do.
15-year-olds murder people.
I know. I'm saying to you.
Yeah, I get that.
By the definition, you know, I think of some of the decisions I made at 14 and 15 and 16. And if you had your time again, and imagine you're the same, we'd go back and go, fucking hell, if I only knew what I knew. But if you make a mistake like that, it's like...
But I gave her that chance. Sure. See, I was in Raqqa filming. I'd been 3 weeks in Syria.
So Raqqa, okay.
That was a home of ISIS.
Is this where she was? I thought
she was in Raqqa and Baghouz. Baghouz and Raqqa were the home of the ISIS in Syria. That was their stronghold. They were there for 2 or 3 years, killing and maiming people. So I was filming in refugee camps. I went to a young boys' prison. I saw a young English boy that I was sad about.
Who'd been radicalised?
Well, no, he was born out there. So he was he wasn't born out. He was born here in Chelsea when he was about 3 or 4. I mean, I'd want to get out of Chelsea, but 3 or 4 years of age, taken over there by his family, and he become a young recruit, a young cadet, ISIS cadet, a young Khalifa. So he had no choice, and in the end, the coalition forces, the SDF, the Syrian Defence Forces, picked him up and put him in prison for what they found out on other people's phones. So how should we know Shamima's done bad things? Where everybody goes, what did she do? No one's told us. Well, what they did, they gathered all the mobile phones up. So the SDF, for evidence for what they did, because all of these girls, women fleeing the camps, hid all their phones, discarded their phones. So they took all the phones in to get the evidence.
Yeah, but I'm trying to play devil's advocate here because I know the story of Shamima Begum. You obviously know it really well. She's radicalised. Where does she end up? So they just leave the country in the airport. Three of them, wasn't it?
So the three of them ended up in Turkey.
And they're 15 years of age at this time?
They're
17,
15.
18?
So she ended up in Turkey.
On holiday or something?
No, she was going there. She'd already arranged her passage. There was another called...
So where's her mum and dad and all? Where's her family, her parents?
Well, her old man would have encouraged it. He ended up going back to Bangladesh, where he come from. So he probably did radicalise, or their family. You know, you get this IRA stuff where people are born into them, or stuff, they have that in them.
Again, we have to qualify this in terms of one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Do you mean it? Again, perspective. And I'm looking at it going, okay, for a 15-year-old English second generation Bangladeshi to piss off to Iraq or piss off to Turkey to try and get into Syria or Iraq, points at somebody somewhere steering them.
That's how I saw it.
It's not something, it's not like going to Magaluf on holiday and you're going, even that's daunting for a young 15-year-old on their own.
Exactly as you see, it's actually I saw it. I spent a lot of time in refugee camps. I saw a lot of death, misery. People were driven out of their houses by Shamima's lot. So they, at that time, and then when I first met her, anyway, building up to it, I spent a lot of time. I went to Raqqa and I see some horrendous things. I went to their torture chambers where they tortured, beheaded people, and where they prepared people to do suicide bombings. They had little cartoons on the walls in the sports ground where ISIS were planning bombings, and this was their kind of area of torture where people were locked up in cells as big as, I don't know, the size of this chair and left there. So I see what ISIS do. They're cages where they set fire to people.
But also, the Allies have carpet bombed parts of their country. So again, I'm not.
But these weren't allies. They were killing their own people. These weren't like soldiers they caught.
But we have to accept we kind of do that as well.
I agree.
By the way we maybe construct our society. Where there's a lot of crime in certain areas and blind eye turned in other areas.
But these are sick people anyway. So going through there, I had empathy. I've been to these camps and I thought if she had, and I actually felt sorry for her. I got into the camp, so
where'd you first meet her? This is it in
our Roj camp.
Okay.
It's like a big refugee camp.
So where's that, Andrew?
That's in Syria.
Syria.
Northern Syria, in a place called Rojava.
On the Turkish border, is it up that kind of way?
Yeah, correct. Okay. Turkish-Iraqi border. Kind of in the mountainous area. So I'd finished this filming, I was hot, and during the time I said I want to go and see Shamima Begum, and my fixer, we were filming this big film for Amazon, and he goes, "You're never going to see her." He said, "I've taken loads of people, she don't see no one." I said, "I'm not having that." I said, I'm going to go and see her. She's going to see me. He said, "You're not. She'll say to you, she'll do what she does. She'll get brought to a room and tell you politely, 'Thanks, very nice for coming.' She has to come and see you. Very nice to see you, but clear off." That's what she's done to all these Oxbridge journalists. And that's like red flag to bull and going, well, I don't mean I can't do it. So they've been turned away. And I finished filming. We finished and it's a wrap in Syria. So I'm heading towards the border and that prison's on the way. So I've gone in there, I've made my appointment, spoke to the local general who I knew, because each area has generals that look after a certain area, and you have to really pay homage to the SDF. And you have to then go and pay.
You have to grease the older palms, do you?
Yeah, of course. You have to. You know what it is. And then you go into the prison camp. You meet the prison who's in charge of the prison, which is a nice lady. She introduces herself and she said, "Listen, I'm going to warn you. Shamima will come, but she won't give you an interview. And if she won't, you have to leave her." And there's another girl wants to see you. She's English, and she wants to give you an interview. So this other girl, and I thought, well, I ain't really interested in her. Shamima's is the one we want. Yeah, she's the one that, lights the touch paper. So I saw this other girl and I was really disinterested. She'd come from Richmond and she's an evil fucker. She said she was pregnant.
Richmond, West London.
Yeah. She said she was pregnant and her husband conned her into going because she had some sort of pre-eclampsia or something, and she ended up waking up in Syria. I said, well, he lost 2 days. Anyway, I wasn't interested in her. She wasn't the gold. And then Shamima came in. Into the room. She sat down, she introduced herself to me, and I was shaking, nervous, like I met a celebrity. That's fucking wrong, isn't it? This girl's
Well, when things mean something, you get that feeling.
Yeah,
don't
I was
you? If it
shaking.
means something, you get that butterflies because it means so much to you. So it's perfectly
Joe, I
normal.
wasn't shaking today, mate.
Well, I don't really mean that.
You
much,
do.
do
You mean a lot to
terms
me.
of like,
You mean a lot to my
yeah,
son
but
and
it's
me.
not going to define your career. Like this is a career-defining
but it
moment
is
for you.
because anyway. So going.
Yeah, meeting Shamima, it would be a career-defining
So yes,
moment.
I'm shaking. I'm going. I wanted it to work, and she said no, and I said, look, Shamima, you can't say no to everybody. And I had a video on my phone ready. I'd had all this. I mean, we're counsel, aren't we? We know what to do. We know how to, spin yarns. We know how to convince people to do things. We know
Survival
keywords.
skills, yeah.
Yeah, you know how to sell
Intuition,
things, don't you?
skills,
You're selling yourself, and you know how it is. So I got, and I had this video prepared. It was a Netflix doc that I did, and it was an area in a hospital which destroys me now because it was a leukemia ward where the Russians are testing nuclear bombs in Kazakhstan. So I showed this video, this person. I said, look, this is the sort of work I do. I'm not one of these slimy journalists that will stitch you up. I actually just want to talk to you. It probably won't go out there. I'm making a documentary. The film's done. Just walk with me and talk with me. And she did. And I think, everybody with me were creaming themselves and thinking, what has he got? What's he been doing in that room? But hadn't I just chat to an empathy and saying, come from the same sort of background as you, Shamima? And I actually liked her. At that point, I looked at her and I thought, I just feel sorry for you.
When I've seen your interview about this and seen you there now, it looks like you regret liking it.
I do.
Why?
Because what come next? What come after?
You're a human being. Like, even if people have done bad things, let's be honest, she's made a few mistakes. She's got a different perspective than you. But that doesn't necessarily mean she's the worst person on earth, and that it's not like you've met the devil incarnate.
At that point, no, you're right. But what I learnt changed me. But so at that point, we talked. I didn't talk about the 3 babies that died. She'd just lost one, probably. I don't know. A month or two before I got there.
So describe to me, Andrew, just because as you're talking here, and I think some of the viewers will be the same. Describe to me. I thought it was a refugee camp, and twice you've used the term prison.
It is a prison.
So can you explain to me what you're turning up and seeing? It's like an open-air prison, is it?
So you're in the middle of a desert. It looks with a slight amount of greenery, but it's the middle of a desert, and there's this bowl, and in that bowl is like a high fenced area, probably 14, 16 foot fence with barbed wire on top. With a
chain link, is it? Like a
chain link fence with a main central block. And inside that area, there's 2 sets of tents. There's one on higher ground and one on lower ground. And there's probably 500-600 tents. No more, it's probably 2,000 tents.
So just to visualise this, are we thinking like a small music festival size-wise?
A large music festival.
Glastonbury size or not quite that big?
No singers there, but
maybe Leeds or Reading?
Yeah, probably like that, yeah.
Right.
And so these tents, they're quite well equipped. They were better than the refugee camps I'd just come from. So they were being treated better than, but they hadn't been on trial. None of those girls have been on trial. So the tents are scattered around pretty close and they're in avenues. So
they can't leave this area?
No, they can't. They're locked in. So
how do they get out of them places? They don't, maybe?
Well, Shamima can't get out, but some of the girls over a period of time, like, I've known 6, 7, 8 German girls, Dutch girls, Canadian girls that have all left and that now they're living freely in Germany or in Holland. One Canadian, she was married to one of the Beatles. You know the famous Beatle terrorists? She
Jihadi John and all
that.
Yeah,
she was married to one of them. God knows they had no taste. She's the ugliest woman on earth.
Yeah, remember that?
She's the ugliest woman on earth. But
I know, but anything's better than a goat, lad. Do you know what I mean?
I'm not too sure about this one. I might have taken my chance for the fucking goat.
A few of them, anything's better than a goat or a camel.
And then, oh God. So this big tented area, so long lines of tents. They're not in circles, they're in lines on a concrete base. And they built sort of concrete base and put a tent around it. And these are their homes. It's been Shamima's home for the last sort of 6, 7 years.
I suppose there's got to be a deterrent for joining an Islamist jihadi regime. Right?
Some have got air conditioning, some have got TVs. There's kids in the camp.
Schools? Is the schools in there?
They kind of self-teach
Hospitals?
them. No, didn't see a hospital. But I'm sure, I think they'd have to leave and go out to hospital. So it's a big tented area and it's freaking hot.
Sounds like hell on earth.
It is. Because when I was there, the first time I went there, I was in the summer. Summer months, it was over 100 degrees in the heat and there's no shade. So you go into the tent and if you're either being, maybe one of the guards is maybe having his way with you, then you might get air conditioning or something else. They've got a shopping centre in there.
See, we've got to be careful here because obviously if people make mistakes, which a few people in there sounds have, then you can see how they go to the nth degree there, especially if you promise what they're promised in the afterlife for
yeah, of course, yeah,
committing
Vestal
crimes
Virgins
over
and that,
here.
but these...
So once they get into that world, it's like, 15-year-old girls. I know you've got a little bit less empathy.
But I had that empathy that you're
no,
mentioning
I've said now than what you
yeah.
had initially. It's interesting, I want to get into, Andrew, how actually how that's evolved. So you meet her, she sits down in the room.
Yeah, and we sit down and I play her this video. So this video, she watches this video and I could see her go, well, mate, this guy ain't so bad. And we changed. She goes, okay, I'll do the interview. I thought I won the FA Cup.
Yeah.
I really did. Aldershot winning the trophy this weekend. But I thought, Jesus, all I could think is all these people at home that couldn't do it. And this young lad, I've always got this chip on my shoulder that I was never supposed to achieve anything. And this was my biggest achievement. She's the most probably, I suppose, despised woman in Britain ever. I don't think there's any more. Maggie, they might have said, a few people said, oh, well, I love Maggie.
It depends who you ask. I can think of
I'm a Maggie fan. But you know that, bring back Maggie. But at that point, so she's the most despised person because every time she pops her head up, I'm on telly. So anyway, so I had this walk. I didn't want the interview to sound like an interview, so I asked her, how she was. No one had ever asked her how she was. How are you? And she said, well, I feel really guilty. I did a foolish thing. In a quiet voice, tearful. I shouldn't have done it. I realise I've been a silly girl. Didn't really mean to do this. What a foolish thing. And then she told me what she does. Her best TV programme was Friends. She liked Joey and Friends. She likes to eat Mrs. Pizza, likes Mint Aero. And for me, that was just a young girl, young teenage girl and a human that was suffering because she had made a mistake and everybody hated her. She knew that. And she just said, I just want to say sorry. So the interview, a bit like us, took 2 hours, probably more like 3 hours. I talk for Britain. Well, we'll be here till probably next year.
No problem, that's what it's about. People want to listen.
So we then walked back and I kind of knew that we had a gel. I knew that we were there. I knew that was there. So we walked back to the room and we sat down with the film crew who weren't interested until I didn't even know who she was because they were Polish. Sat in and at the end I said for my... ex-Special Forces, we had full gear on this time because we're going deep in it in Raqqa, and he knew who she was. And I'm sitting in there and I said, look, Shamima, I've got to say goodbye now. She was welling up. And I go, look, can I shake your hand? Because obviously I didn't want to abuse her religion. I didn't know how far gone she was. Didn't know if she'd shake my hand, being a female. She said, can I have a hug? And she got hold of me and started crying. Now, at that point, I'm going, do you know what? I'm going to go home. I'm going to release this picture and I'm going to get as much abuse as I possibly can. I didn't even, my family stopped talking to me, some of them, for that picture. I had a big divide in the family. I got home and I had messages, they don't want to talk to you anymore. You're going to bring terrorists to our door. All these sorts of things. I was shunned from that first initial meeting. It went unbelievable. I mean, I had every news channel licking my arse. Every media outlet wanted to know me. Every newspaper wanted me. It was like, all of a sudden I didn't realise it would be that big, but it was.
Well, you got a big scoop there.
I didn't realise it was a scoop. I knew it was big, but I didn't really give a shit because I don't do it for that. I do it for my own, to make myself content, enjoy what I do. I didn't really want fame from it. I know I'd done TV, but it was all part of having fun like we all do. And when I got back, TV channels kept on begging me to go out and take them again. And I'm going to soon be telling you something that's fucking annoyed me. But so I had Sky come to me. All of the channels came to me and they were like courting me saying, look, you've got what we couldn't get. Can you take us? Can you take us back for the second time? I didn't really want to go back. I didn't really care. I'd done my deal. I'd done with it. And I refused. I said, no, I can't be asked. So I went on to Good Morning Britain. We did this interview. And afterwards, a guy called Neil Thompson and Jessica spoke to me. Neil's in charge of Good Morning Britain. He's the big guy that hires and fires. He said, look, and they kind of caught me. I wanted to do Assad because I had a connection with President Assad. So Syria. I said, yeah, Syrian guy, yeah, my mate got me Assad. And I contacted him and it was on. And I said, look, I'll do Assad with you, but I don't really want to do Shamima anymore. I'm done with it. I got a load of abuse. My family aren't talking to me. I try and build the relationship with them. But I stuck to my guns and said she's been treated badly and she's been radicalised.
Yeah, you've made that human connection with her, haven't you?
Yeah, and I liked her. I did like her, and I thought, you know, it's sad, and I'll do my best to help her out if I can.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
So I did. Anyway, when I got back, I bought her some clothes. So I said yes to Good Morning Britain. I said, I'll go, I'll take you. They binned Assad because Assad Colonel wanted money. But we had him, and I wanted to do Assad, and I regret that now because it would have been a fantastic interview.
Especially now he's behind enemy lines in the Soviet Union.
Well, I'm glad I never did it for Good Morning Britain, and you'll understand why, because they're a bunch of whatevers.
So are they the ones who stitch you up?
Yeah, I'm going to tell, this is the first time I've ever told the story, and I swore to myself that I would never do it. So Neil, if you're watching this, you deserve it. Because they convinced me to go. I felt probably a little bit big, you know, ego was up, you know, big TV corporation, they want to do a live interview, I'll take them over there. I didn't know she'd say no to me again, but I thought it was a good chance because that bond that she might say yes. So I said yes to him, yeah, I'll take you, go and see her again. So I bought a load of clothes for her and bought a load of stuff in, and we packed and we went. We had the film crew, we had Neil, who's in charge of Good Morning Britain, another guy I won't mention, cameraman, and we had the sound guy because they wanted to go live. You imagine in a prison camp in Syria going live, to get into a camp to go live at, I think it was 7:30 in the morning. It's impossible. Yeah, you can't do it. No one can do it. You can't go to Syria in a prison camp and go, oh, by the way, we want to go live. Shamina we need her for an hour. We need to see her the day before and prep her, and then go back the next day. I needed to work with all the guys that I knew really well. I knew all the local governors. I knew their fixers were shit.
Say, there's a load of palms to grease there.
There is, and not only that, they'd been there. Good Morning Britain been there, but I think it was 6 months before, and got told they didn't even get in the camp. They didn't even manage to get the camp. Their fixers never got even there. So they come home, failed, spent 50 grand, and blew it out. So they're putting all their chips on me. And I was quite confident. We went in Iraq. It was all flashy and everything great. And they're loving me. They're loving me. You know, I could have got them to lick me arse. They would have done. They were loving me. So we got into a place called Derek inside Syria. You have to cross Iraq over a little bit of water. And then you get in your hotel probably about half an hour on, called Derek. It's a town between, you can see Turkey in the border and you can see Iraq. Everything's close. So the whole film crew, and I've binned their fixers because they're a bag of shit. I got my own, and so I want my own guys to look after it. We had a Canadian guy, Canadian Special Forces, not Canadian, New Zealand Special Forces, Jack New Zealand, and became a British Special Forces. Lovely guy.
Is he leading the...
He's our security.
He's
our main man, yeah. He's the main man looking at, not armed, got intelligence. I mean, Special Forces are Special Forces.
They're armed anyway, just in the way they move, aren't they? They don't need to be armed.
I felt confidence.
They're a trained weapon.
They are. So we're there. And so I've spoken to all the right people. So we're hitting the ground. And I said, I don't know if this is going to happen. But I said, one thing you've got to promise me, I'm introducing you to this. I want credit for it. I want you because they promised, right, we're filming you the day before. You can introduce Shamima Begum to the world because that's your gig. That's what you did. So that's what they said to me.
You conduct the interview with her?
No. Right. That Richard and Susanna did that live from the studios back in the UK.
Richard Madeley.
Yes.
Judy Finnegan's other half.
Yeah.
And Susanna Reid, who's, I don't know who's her other half. She was with the Palace chairman.
Yeah, she was for a little bit, and he binned her off, and he's got another one, hasn't he?
TV world, isn't it? It's like the merry-go-round, isn't it? Yeah, it's...
So Susanna and that, we're going to go live to Susanna and Richard. So I've gone in there and I can smell her. So the first day we went to Miss Shamima, and Shamima's gone, yeah, I'll do it. I can do it for you.
So how much selling have you got to give her? Have you got to say to her, look, this will help you if you want to...
Yeah, giving all that stuff and saying, if you want to go live and put your point over, you know, be careful what you do. And the other girls, the German, the Dutch, they were schooling her on what she should say. They had up all night that night, preparing her, putting nail varnish on her, doing her hair, doing all the shit like that to make herself look as Western as possible. And I spoke to her. She was in the shopping when we went there. So I went up to the little shopping area. They can buy kids' clothes and clothe themselves with any money they can raise. So I dragged her out and convinced her to do it. I mean, this is big time. I mean, they're almost in Jack Layton in their pants because they got an opportunity to do something massive.
Live on the telly at that time, yeah. I think.
Yeah, to get a prison camp in Syria. So I went to the prison guard and I kind of begged her, look, you've got to come in at 7:30 in the morning. When we need to be here at 7 o'clock to go live, to put the satellites, this big hundreds of £1,000s worth of kit to get satellite signal up and going, the camera crew in, and get Shamima ready for that time. I mean, it's a big thing to do, isn't it? And I arranged all that. I'd done all that. I mean, it's impossible. And it is, even now when I look back, I go, that's fucking impossible.
Yeah, but you've made it possible, haven't you? Something that's why they're bringing you in, for that expertise.
Yeah, so I've done all that. Then the day before the interview, I said, where's my bit then? You know, you promised me. So we went out into the wilderness. I'm used to being filmed. I mean, I've done docs, so I know what it's like. I've done 5, 6 documentaries, so I'm not bad on a camera and I know where to look, what to do. So I don't need schooling. So we go into this area and I smelt a rat there. We went to this area and they got the camera crew out and I'm looking into what the fuck's this? What am I looking into? What load of old bollocks. So the crew's there, but this is supposed to, I thought, well, they're TV. And then when we went live, I thought, where's my introduction? Then the guy, his name was Matt, when he said, oh, this is your bit. My bit, when I go back and look at it, was Andrew Drury, a little bit on the bottom of the screen. I thought I'd been fucking done over here. That was the first bit done over. So I felt gutted. I thought I'd done all this effort. They didn't pay me a penny neither. 2 weeks of my life out for ITV, didn't get nothing. So I've actually filmed with them all day. And in the car, when the interview, I mean, anybody can go back and look at the interview, although Shamima had a tantrum halfway through and wouldn't come out of a tent, so I pretty much dragged her out. I thought, fuck that, I'm not coming all the way here. And then we've gone all this far and you're deciding, she didn't like the questioning.
Oh, did she get up and
yeah, she cleared off. They went for a break, you know, because Good Morning Britain can't have to have their advert break. They got a terrorist on the line.
Bills to pay, yeah.
And they still go. And then anyway, I dragged her out because she didn't want none of it. Dragged her out, put back on this concrete wall so they could finish the interview. But they finished the interview, and out on the way back, we got into our vehicles. And anyway, she did at that point, I must tell you, she gave me a telephone. I was told by my fixer at that time, give her your phone number. She's allowed 1 phone call a week, and that'll give you that connection. So I said, here, Shamima, here's my phone number. She's allowed it. She clears off. Thanks very much. And I thought that'd be the last day I ever hear of her. And we clear off. And then Good Morning Britain queue are almost falling over themselves. This is a BAFTA, this is a BAFTA, this is marvellous. Hold on a minute. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I know I'm a soft lad that comes out. I got that word from you. I'm a soft lad come from a council slate and all shop, but I ain't stupid.
Yeah.
You know, I think on my feet. I've got you this. And then we went back and they're celebrating in the hotel, sunbathing in Erbil, in Iraq, in a nice area, loving themselves, quaffing champagne, congratulating each other, and then I'm a leper.
Used and abused?
Well, I'd done it. It didn't matter. I mean, I don't care. And they had me on for about a 5 minute when I got back. They promised me to promote my book. They never did.
That's why they put on the contract, talent.
I didn't. Do you know what? Yeah, of course.
That's what you are.
Yeah, but the book, I didn't. Listen, I didn't sign a contract. What a prick. But the reason I didn't sign a contract is I thought these were decent people. This is media. They're not going to stitch you up. How wrong am I? Well, anyway, time goes by, and then I take Sky over there to the biggest knob on earth. I took him in that. And then Sky come back, and I thought, I'm not going again. But me and Shamima have been having this interaction via text. And this is when my relationship with Shamima broke down.
So is this over about a 6-month period, a 5-month?
7-8 month period. It was between the end of the summer.
So ITV get the scoop. How was that received for Shamima? I can vaguely remember it happening.
She
ISIS brides is not my speciality subject.
Well, the lefties loved it because she did all right.
Lineker and all that.
Oh yeah, it'd be lapping her up, wouldn't it? He'd be having her in her back garden. Funny enough,
I wouldn't be surprised to see him pitch up in a relationship with her. She's single, he's single. He's got a big house, loads of space.
He only takes in Ukrainians, though, doesn't he?
Oh, has he got a few Ukrainians?
He had a couple of Ukrainians. I think that's about all as far as he knows.
Yeah, probably be about 6'2", blonde with decent sized cannons.
Yeah, I would imagine so. So he's got them. Lineker's not my favourite. He's not even a good pundit, anyway.
Yeah,
but
we digress.
Yeah, we digress. So I've come back, and then Sky. And then I'm getting all this stuff in together from her. She sent me messages. Text messages started coming. The minute I left the prison camp with her on this ITV interview, how did I look? She'd become narcissistic. She let her guard down. It wasn't this, poor Shamima. She changed into a victim overnight. It wasn't sorry for what I did. She fed on the victim side of it.
Well, it's main character syndrome, probably why she's ended up out there in the first place, isn't it?
Of course. Wanted to be what I wanted to be, somebody.
Yeah, well, that's all. There's nothing wrong with that, but obviously you've got to remember if that's what you want to be, then obviously it comes. If it doesn't, if you want to be a cowboy, it does come with some consequences.
Well, it did, and anyway. So when she come back, when I was on that trip, she opened her purse. I should have gone back to that. But anyway, during the time she opened her purse and she said, you're the only person that I've ever showed these pictures. It was pictures of her kids. One of her kids was 9 months old, he had chocolate around its face, and one was a baby. The other one, she died pretty much as soon as it was born. They're buried around the camp.
Which is sad, isn't it?
Yeah, I had tears in my eyes.
Yeah,
I thought it was really... And then, so she showed me these pictures. She didn't seem to have much emotion about it. But remember the relationship to my brother dying, so she'd touched a nerve. And I think a mother never should see a child die.
She was impregnated then? Was she had a kid with her and she was
with a
pregnant
Dutch
when
husband.
She's turned into... So is he in the camp?
Yeah. He's in our hole, which is another camp I visited.
I thought
that's for the bad men.
Left them behind in.
No. She got bombed in Baghouz and did a runner. So she did a runner towards Raqqa, and then she got picked up by the SDF, who confiscated her phone. That's why I know what she's done.
Okay.
But anyway,
so you think she's playing you? She's trying to play you?
Oh yeah, but she's playing me.
You're playing her a bit as well.
Oh, I'm buying her clothes and taking things out there and trying. Because Sky have come and told me they want to do it, so I've got to keep her on board.
And they're playing you now.
And they're fucking playing me like a big one. But this bloke would make me laugh. This is how unprofessional. Sky News ring up. I go and see the chief of Sky News, and then a bloke who's telling me I'm the greatest thing on earth again. I'm used to it now. I've had it before, so I'm a little bit strong about this. And I made him sign down that I wanted their cameraman to record me interviewing Shamima, and I'd do what I wanted with the footage. So I've gone back to Shamima. I took him a load of clothes through these text messages. But anyways, I'll tell you about why I changed for the text message. I sent her a message. Remember, my brother died, so that's always been a big part. And it weighs heavy on me now. I mean, that's 50 years ago, but I'm still...
Never lose you, mate.
It's still there, and I still get tearful when I think about it. And anyway, so I've seen these 3 pictures, and they played on my mind. I felt, that poor bitch. I sent a message one night. I said, look, do you know what, Shamima? Those pictures you sent me really moved me. I'm really sad for you. She said, oh, don't worry about that. I'm over that part of my life now. And that point there, that one point there for me, told me everything. She has no empathy. She has that missing in her personality. And then bits dropped off of her personality. She asked me, when I went out to do the Sky interview, she asked me for 2 books, Guantanamo Bay Diaries and another book. Both of them were, you know what, Guantanamo Bay Diaries about the people who went to Guantanamo Bay, were locked up illegally. So she wanted me to bring that book to her, and another book about some refugee that was treated really badly by the British. So I think she was just using these as some sort of, I don't know, encyclopedia of how her life could be. She was trying to characterise herself, get herself a persona. Anyway, I didn't want to get her the books, so I decided not to. I got the clothes from Primark. I've never been in a Primark. I sent my mother-in-law to get them. I can go in that shop. Would you go to Primark?
Full circle there, haven't you? Primark, yeah, I've never been in there. But if I had to, I'd wear it. It doesn't bother, like stuff like that doesn't bother me. But I would think of better shops to go to. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I got these clothes for her. I bought them there. And this is where the real did break down. I got this Sky, I'll tell you about this Sky guy. He was a right pompous guy. He had the old shirt with the cravat inside and the scarf, like like we had these desert scarves wrapped around your neck. No one wears them. No correspondence.
You've read too much Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah, and I'm going, you look like a knob, which must mean you are a knob. Well, anyway, the deal was I was going to walk alongside Shamima, get her talking, and as I back off, he could come in. She had a mask on. It was COVID time.
Okay.
So I've backed off. I've introduced him. I've said whatever his name was now, knobhead or something. And he's come in and he started talking to her. He's done his hour. And you could see he was creaming himself. This was his big spill. He was going to go live.
I watch this.
Yeah. And he creamed himself from Sky, and he's gone and he's been introducing her. I'm behind her. And then she's done. The interview's done and he's gone. He's loving it. You can see it. He's almost excited. And as he finished the interview, I go, it's my time now. And Sky, fair play to him, they stuck to their deal. I said, Shamima, take your mask off. And you could see his face drop. He'd done an whole interview and all you could see was her eyes. Because she hasn't got the best set of teeth, I must admit. So we sat on this concrete slab and we've spoken. You could see he wanted to redo his interview. And that proves this lad might have learnt a thing or two.
You're always learning. So you get is this the interview that she done where nobody asked her about the kind of terrorism act? There was a big furore about
that's correct,
questions that got asked to her.
Yeah,
or
that
never
was
got
it.
asked
Sky
to her.
did that. Yeah, that's it. They didn't ask her a lot. They would try to. It was more of, it was
propaganda piece.
Yeah, I think it was like the Jubilees going on or something's going on, and will you be celebrating all that shit he come out with, and it wasn't one of very good. I mean,
the radical left is into cases like that, which make them virtue signal from the highest possible.
But in the meantime, Joey, this ITV Good Morning Britain had been BAFTA nominated.
For your first interview
with Shamima, the live interview, come back and I had to find out. I had to contact them. It had been BAFTA nominated.
So BAFTA nominated in your world is the equivalent of winning the league, the
World League, Cup.
Win the World Cup.
For a British-based TV, it's the World Cup. It's their, they'd done it once before, but for something really years and years ago. This was something massive. For Good Morning Britain, if they'd won that, it would have been the first time. It would have been, I bought them something that had not been bought before. And I'm a con artist. This is not my gig. I still got my building company. I'm doing that daytime. So I bought them a BAFTA.
So this is your hobby then?
Yeah. I bought them a BAFTA, right? So I've gone. And then I contacted Neil and I said to him, you are going to invite me, aren't you? Because this is my BAFTA. He said, yeah, you're in the table of 10. You're in. And here's the BAFTA details. So I'm excited. I got my BAFTA invite, the big old thing with the mask, and I'm planning my speech. I'm up there. I'm going to be winning it. This is something special. We got a good old chance about this. The only other thing was the storming of Capitol Hill we're up against. So
the January 6th, was it?
Yeah, that's it. Storming of Capitol Hill. So I'm going, I've got this. We've got this. So I'm going up there and I'm getting my tux on in the morning, good hotel that I'm paid for. I remember I hadn't been paid for anything. They cut me out of everything else, but I thought at least they're honoured themselves. Then I found out there's only 5 nominees. So I get a text about an hour before to go in saying, sorry mate, you blanked. And these are the names. I was gutted. I mean, they'll hear this and they'll fucking hate it, Joey. If this goes out, they'll hate it. I hope it does.
It's going out.
And then there's the 5 nominees, right? One was a girl who answered telephone. I like her. She answered telephone. One guy tried on the COVID masks and gave us our bulletproof jackets. That's all he did. Neil, who done nothing, but carried a screen to stop the sun off of her. Our cameraman got it and the sound never did. I was off. So the only reason I'm telling you this is because I've got all the text messages, all the emails. So if any of them lying scumbags say this never happened, because it'll be embarrassing for them how they treat the general public, I'll go, well, have a look at my messages, because they're all there.
So did they win the BAFTA for it?
No, I wanted to lose it.
But did it win it?
No, they didn't.
No. So, but even to be BAFTA nominated,
it's amazing.
That's a bit amazing thing.
It's the biggest thing.
It, yeah.
So I'm
you always hear BAFTA nominated or BAFTA winner.
So I send Neil's secretary, I said, is it because I'm not part of Good Morning Britain? I'm not. And she goes, no, it's just Neil's decision. I thought, you complete and utter twat. I mean, that's, you built yourself up. Something especially that you've done. You did the whole lot, everything. We created the whole of that. And then someone tells you as you're about to walk in. And then I met him at the entrance. I said, that's not right. He said, well, remember Watergate? The guy, the whistleblower, he never got the credit. Look at yourself like that. I wanted to punch him square in the face.
So when I take it you've worked for, that's the BBC there, ITV, you've worked for Sky, you've worked for Netflix, you've worked for all these different corporations. Is it similar? Are they all the same, or is the better people than others?
I just did a BBC interview a few weeks ago, because you know what it is, they set you up, don't they? I did this morning with Holly Willoughby, just before she packed up. It was about guys that do hobbies of war tourism. So I sat down with the guy that was supposed to interrogate me, became a best mate inside the green room. Oh, what you do is fantastic. Oh, let me read your book. Let me know this. Then you get out there and he slaughters you. So it's the same thing, isn't it? And media do that.
Yeah, I mean, you hope to meet better people than others though, Andrew, don't you? You hope that there is at least some people in your industry with a bit of integrity, a bit of backbone.
Documentaries, maybe. Maybe in the documentaries you get that. But there's something I will say about it. When I find the text that I have, there's something that I'll tell you when camera's not rolling, what ITV will be embarrassed about.
All right.
And if I have that time one day, I don't want to be, because I don't want to be sued.
I'm not allied with ITV.
I don't want to be sued neither.
Yeah.
And if you're broadcasting
it, on me at some point.
If you broadcast it, it's your fault.
No, I won't, because I don't want to be sued off the.
No, so I'm not doing anything about that. But one day I'll find that missing text, and I will embarrass them for what they did to me.
Yeah, I think they're unscrupulous when you look at the way they behaved over the COVID and wars in the past. I think. It's whatever sells, isn't it? And very, very quickly the wind flips and changes, and all of a sudden I think they run with the
what
kind of hare hounds there.
What do you think of Piers? Because I did Piers too.
Piers is for Piers. He's brilliant at what he does. Really, really good at what he does. So it's like dancing with the devil, isn't it? You know, when you do an interview with someone like that, or whether you do. I
actually didn't mind him.
I think there's certainly a likable person there, but obviously the way he goes about furthering his own agenda. He does leave collateral damage on the side of the street. Yeah. But also, as long as you know what you're doing and you don't. I think sometimes we can be a little bit too trusting of people who end up.
I was with ITV. I think they paid me. I got this champagne come to the door, and I thought, well, if I didn't get enough of this, must be a bottle of, £200, £500 bottle of champagne. Picked it up, it's from Marks and Spencer's, about 20 quid, and I'm thinking, that's what you really thought of the fucking effort. Never got paid. Took 2 weeks out, and that's what I got. There you go.
So how do you choose your stories and the projects that you get into? Is it the people or the the potential impact of what you might capture?
Well, North Korea was because I was nosy, because all of us want to know what goes on in there. So I went in there because I read about it. The Ku Klux Klan and the KKK. I was sleeping. I don't sleep very well at night. I didn't last night, actually, as it goes. But I was listening to this Irish radio station, Bizarre. It was when DAB radio first came out, and we had the kind of opportunity to listen to different things. You remember? You could fiddle on the DAB.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Reverend Travis Pearce was on this Irish radio station, and I wanted to infiltrate the KKK, and I did, because the dozy twat let me in.
So where have you got... So let's just go back there, because they're two fascinating things that I think people who listen to this want to find out about. We'll come back to the KKK, but North Korea, what was that like? What was that experience, and how did you get in there?
There used to be a company, a tourist company that nobody booked with, that used to do ex-communist
Wasn't
countries.
Ryanair, was it?
Sorry?
Not Ryanair.
Well, they got the worst airline called Air Keone, ex-Russian 1970s aeroplanes, and I went about 15 years ago into
So
North
where'd you
Korea.
fly to? I take it don't go
Beijing. Going to Beijing, and then you get on a plane to Pyongyang. So, as you described going to Pyongyang, we came in at night time. Myself and my cousin went on that trip. We come out, and as you come out through the airport land, you have to hand in your phones. You're not any telephones in North Korea. So you hand them in.
Imagine the signal won't be that good there anyway.
Well, so we get all our phones and we put them in this like bucket, and they take them away, and then we're given our chaperones. I had a young lady chaperone and an old man, so she was like his apprentice. So they picked us up, and they were going to take us to a hotel, which everybody goes to this hotel on this island, where the president at the time had, I think it was Kim Il-jung, got a hole-in-one in every hole.
I've heard these stories, yeah. I know, it was like that yesterday on the golf course, weren't you? 41 points.
Well, yeah, so anyway, so they took us over to this Pyongyang. But I had it was when the earliest iPad out, the iPad 1.
Okay.
Nothing to do with me, Beyonce. I do not listen to, but my daughter did. So it's plenty to Beyonce, scantily clad. And I showed her, she goes, she didn't know what this iPad was. She obviously knew what mobile phones was, so I was kind of corrupting her. And she saw Beyonce, and then I had, for some reason, I had Norman Wisdom on there. Probably is me, I'm from 98, but Norman Wisdom was on. He's class,
man,
Norman.
Yeah, he's a funny man, yeah.
Yeah, Norman
a lot of
was on
mannerisms,
there.
yeah.
But they knew Norman Wisdom. Norman Wisdom was big time. There was one thing on TV they could watch, was Norman Wisdom. Get taken to their hotel, it's dark. So we got there because there's no street lights, because they're curfew. And all the people are walking to their homes as you go, because they're not allowed out at night.
Does it have can you feel it? Can you feel the strange, like everybody's watching everybody?
Oh, big time.
George Orwell's 1984, isn't it?
Exactly, it's exactly it. So you get driven to this island in the middle of there's a river running through, a bit like the Thames, but there's an island on the middle. And you get a hotel, and all of us are escorted to this one place. It's only me and him, and you're given your rooms. So that you get into an elevator, and this is a true story, I can show you the pictures of it. And the elevator has like 16 floors, and then there's one missing. It goes 1, 10, then it goes to like 12. So and your escorts get out on that missing level of floor. So they get out. So you go in the lift with you because you're not allowed anywhere with yourself. So the lift they go out, and then you get taken to your room. And then the rooms are bugged with your 1970 and 80 bugs under the lampshade and up the wall, whatever. So myself and my cousin Nigel said, we're going to go out, we can escape. So we're talking. So we escape, we get into the lift. Lift goes down, we think we're beaten, we're going off for a little walk. Opens up, our chaperones are back in again. So they listen to you. In that hotel just before, the German guy had been arrested because he stubbed his cigarette out on, I think it was Kim Il-jung's face by accident. He put the newspaper in and put the cigar in it, and the cigar touched the leader's face. The dear leader. So that went in, and then we were taken to look at to a circus show, a bit like our government. A facade. I mean, you could see the strings of the helicopter pulling the helicopter, and everybody goes, wow. And even the audience are brought in. So we sit there.
I watched this one, and was this when you went to the shop and there was food and you could see it kind of been put there for them?
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
Tin fruit and all that, and you just knew that the minute you turned away, that was moved somewhere else.
Yeah, it was. And that's the only time I've eaten dog, because we had a chance to eat dog, and most of us were eating just shrubs and nothing. The food was poor. And we drove off, and we were going to the DMZ, demarcation zone.
Is this between North and South
North and South, but doing it from North area. But then they took us to this place, and they were like, we stopped off just outside Pyongyang and went into this kind of wooded area. They were partying and barbecuing. Now, we don't know if they were just having fun or whatever. Then we got on a train, and there was a punch up on the train station. We don't know if this was all geared up. Part of the whatever was going on to say they were like free.
Part of the show.
Then went to a fairground where they had a load of American soldiers with these corks, and they were shooting these American soldiers, and they were like these. And I don't even know. There's people in the fairground, and I got on this fairground ride. It was a wooden roller coaster, and I was with this young chaperone, and she shat herself, and so did I, because every time it parted as you went, the wheels went over, the tracks moved apart. But it was always kind of like a facade.
It's almost like, when you look at it in terms of foreign policy, as I say, I loved geography as a kid, and then I got massively into history and fascinated by it. But when you look at that kind of, the Vietnam conflict and that Korean peninsula, the Korean Wars, and the kind of story of it, how close the North actually came to overrunning the South, and the Americans fought back. Well, and then you've got that DMZ, the demilitarized zone, where they just point at each other pretty much 24 hours a day. And then you look at the geopolitics behind who is fronting the North Koreans. Obviously, the Chinese will have a finger in there, and it looks like the Russians in the past. And that's the Cold War in effect, in a different theatre of war, as I see as the Middle East, and as I see with the conflict in Ukraine.
Without a doubt, and we need conflict. Remember that for the economy. Geopolitics, because they need to sell arms.
Well, this is, again, we're back in the Orwell territory of there is always a conflict for somebody because of the big, military industrial complex that benefits from it.
Trump's caused the biggest issue at the moment, because he's gone in there and in Syria, he's caused the issue with Erdogan from Turkey, because Trump wants to take his troops out of Syria because he's make Britain great again. Listen, I wish we had a bit more of him.
Made America great again.
Oh, great. Oh, yeah, I got confused then.
I was
with Keir Starmer.
That was a fraudulent slip there. You're hoping he makes Britain great again.
Well, he's just put 100% tariff on movies, I think.
We don't produce anything decent anyway.
No, just this. This is decent.
I watched that Mobland the other day, that Guy Ritchie one, even with Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy.
Do you not like it?
I just think it could have been done well better. Tom's brilliant. I love Tom, but I've been really
Irish
underwhelmed by it.
Innit?
Yeah, and he's Irish, isn't he? James Bond, Pierce Brosnan.
You wouldn't have thought it, but he's coming and caused problems into Ukraine, and he's also caused problems into Syria, because he wants to take it serious. But this is how Trump's clever. He's just signed a massive big deal with Ukraine about their grain. So he's got all their grain.
The biggest wheat field, and it's the heartland, the breadbasket of Europe, isn't it?
So he's done so well out of that deal, and they own it anyway, because Zelensky doesn't. And if anybody out here thinks that Zelensky run Ukraine, you're on a cloud.
I was going to ask you about that. What's your thoughts about Zelensky?
The oligarchs run it. Klitschko don't like him. He sacked his. Klitschko's one of his best mates was in charge of the military.
But there's rumours that he's like a big cokehead and all that, and that he's just a puppet for that. I mean,
he is a puppet.
The conspiracy
there's a lot of money gone missing.
Wasn't he an actor, a comedian?
That's why he was a comedian.
Wouldn't Trump? Sorry to interrupt. Wouldn't Trump be considered the same after his stint on The Apprentice, who's become president?
It's exactly good. I've never heard that before, but you're right.
In essence, he's
same thing. I might use that myself. Cut that out, and I'll edit that into myself. Yeah, that little bit. But the point, I suppose the point I'm making, Trump's now destabilised the areas like Syria, because now he's about to have caused a real problem with ISIS coming back, because now Assad regime have been kicked out. ISIS have taken over control of Syria, southern Syria, northern Syria. They're moving in, and now with the Americans pulling out, he's asking the Turks to come in. So the place is a mess. So there are problems for the poor old Kurds.
The problem we've got is, obviously, Tony Blair took us into the Iraq conflict. We had Afghanistan. We had, with part of the Allied Corps, we had to be in there. You've had Libya, which was Barack Obama, who was considered by the left to be this,
the big
wind of change.
Yeah.
So this is why I've just become apathetic towards it. I'm just like, these are all the same. War's going to be war, big pharma's going to be big pharma, and the collateral damage is whichever way the wind's blowing, the people in between.
I think Tony Blair's got some awkward questions to be answered.
Well, Alistair Campbell, I know Alistair, and obviously I like Alistair personally.
He's
away
very
from
left.
But he's become even further left and very, very wet. But then the alternative is he faces up to... I'm not saying they could have avoided us going into those conflicts, because at the time, George W. Bush and Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld, I think they were quite intent on going where they were going, regardless of the information of 9/11. And I'm not sure how we could have been part of a coalition without some kind of military support of those neocons in the States.
I don't think the American would have survived in Iraq without us and our intelligence. I think they relied on us, the Americans. But even our small force.
Well, we have... I mean, this is the problem now, isn't it? We're probably at the point of being a militia now. I don't think we're even in the...
No,
that's what does worry me. If we're, Keir Starmer, who you've seen him punch in a boxing punch bag, you don't, not really a man that you want to be in.
I don't want to mess with him.
In a partnership with if the shit goes down.
The thing is...
And if the Russians kick off and the Chinese get brought into it with Taiwan... Are we in a real position to be dictating to the rest of the world?
I mean, I was born in Aldershot. I live in the military town, home of the British Army. All the army quarters are now houses. We haven't got anybody left. The power's moved out. So the town's been decimated. So it's died. Aldershot's asleep. Still says home of the British Army, but they're all gone. We've got a few Gurkha regiments, but that's it. They've all gone. We've got nothing left. And can you see these spineless people these wokey people that we're now... I don't know, probably a new wave of people. Can you see any of these legal immigrants fighting?
Do you know, I go through it all the time, and I think warfare's changed. I think it's turned into a technological, certainly when I think about Hiroshima in 1945, I think they could end war pretty quick. When you think of the capabilities that they had in 1945 when they set off the two nuclear bombs in Japan. Imagine what they've got now. Don't forget, we're 80 years down the line. Well, it's like 90. Imagine it'll be like Star Wars-esque
It's
technology.
Still trenched, though, now in Ukraine.
Yeah, they're dug in, but that only becomes when it becomes a land dispute. I mean, they could end that pretty quickly, I would imagine.
Nuke.
Yeah, nobody wants it. No. But, with the technology they have now, and Malcolm Gladwell's, not the last book, the one before, about the bomber mafia, and now warfare's changed from the Second World War to the First World War and so on and so forth. We've seen in Ukraine recently, I haven't obviously experienced what you've experienced in the other theatres of war, but in Ukraine we've seen the rise of this drone
I can tell you about that with Klitschko. I went to the town hall to meet him. On the morning we got bombed. Like I said, a couple of buildings down from us got bombed. And it was Klitschko invited us to the bomb site, which we went. Then I went to interview Klitschko and I had to wait a couple of hours for him, and I was shit myself meeting him because he's like one of the big guys of this theatre of war, and I'm a little guy. And what he was doing was inspecting drones. He must have been 20, 15 drones as we walked up, and he was lifting them, looking at them. That's his war. That is it.
That is, think of what it cost to invest in a soldier. You come from Aldershot, you train a soldier up, and then soldier goes into conflict and can suffer, mental problems, and obviously if you lose him, it's maybe 50, 60,000 pounds worth of investment, where a drone now is relatively cheap and
just
within reason can kill, if not more, cause more carnage and destruction than what one soldier can. So I think the warfare as we know it has changed. We are now getting into the kind of Star Wars territory.
We are.
And if China, and America end up in a conflict, I just don't see how troops on the ground will be important, because in every war they have been, but I don't think it's the deciding factor as the Russians are finding out in Ukraine. I don't think it happened
to you, though. I can't see it happening. I hope not.
Well, it only takes one fucking lunatic to get the world, as people found out in the early
but Putin
1940s.
Isn't that lunatic?
No, I think Vladimir Putin's a very, very smart individual who has his own country's vested interest at heart. I also think, Trump's the same in some regard. I wouldn't say he's the smartest, but no. I don't think the way Putin is and Xi Jinping is, I don't think they're the people that, no. I don't think Trump's the guy who runs a country. I think he's the front man for the performance. But as you're seeing in many, many consecutive American, the deep state in America and all the tentacles of that, I think dictate what American foreign policy is.
I'd agree with that.
So I was going to ask you mentioned before about the Ku Klux Klan, right? Where did you go to meet them, and talk to me about
Deep South down in Georgia. I couldn't sleep one night, as I said before, and I listened to this radio station. I had no intention. I wanted to go to America because I wanted, have you seen, what's that Deliverance film? Well, Banjo Boy, I wanted to find him.
Yeah, okay.
I went to find the Banjo Boy, and I did find him, working in a Walmart.
Is he the full shilling, the kid?
No.
So it was a genuine character that,
He had, if you look on anybody looks on my Facebook X or whatever, they can go and see what he looks like now. And we found him. We kind of asked if we can buy a signed autograph from him. And then we found him in a Walmart, stinking of piss, getting trolleys. Sad, and his face is quite mangled. But he told us he hated Burt Reynolds, hated him to bits, kind of said was a blight of his life and wished he was never in the film because it ruined his life. Anyway, so I was listening to this, I was listening to this radio station at night, and this Reverend Travis Pierce seemed nuts. He was talking about, he was a wizard, the Grand Wizard, and a Reverend. Don't know you being on wizard anyway, but
it's weird, but
wizard, it's kind of confusing. And he invited us to come out and meet him. Then the American government shut down the Ku Klux Klan's email, and we lost him. And then he found a new one, remembered us, and said, "Come over and meet us." And I thought, bingo's another scoop. So we went over there, and we're deep south, not far from the Elvis country, down near Georgia, and. I've got the video. If anybody wants to ask me about it, it's brilliant because we're in a hotel served by complete black people. And the most embarrassing thing ever happened is we arranged with Travis Pierce to come pick us up. He said, I can send Ronnie. He's my bodyguard. He'll come and get you. He turned up in the full KKK gear in a hotel that we've got to go back to. Not with a hat. He had the blood eye sweatshirt with a Ku Klux Klan all over him. And I thought, no, please don't come in the foyer. And he did. And I go back and felt really embarrassed so we followed him up this dirt track, and then there were the headquarters of the Klan. He showed us all the masks. How many would be
in? Is it still big, the organisation?
Worse than you ever imagine.
Is it? Yeah.
Government are involved in it. Local governors, school teachers.
So it was a bit like Masonic lodges in the UK.
Exactly.
Imagine,
probably even larger down deep south. And Reverend Travis Pierce, this fierce guy that we thought we were going to meet, opened the door. He was there with his family. He's about 2 foot tall. It's a tiny little thing, but Ronnie was a pissed up guy.
So was Hitler and Stalin, all these lunatics.
He had a little moustache as well, to be honest.
Keir Starmer's only 4'2". Rishi Sunak's fucking 3'6".
Rishi Sunak, don't fucking talk about him.
Who else? Sadiq Khan's about 2'5". Yeah, you know what I mean. The evil comes in small packages.
Mayor of London. Oh God, what's
so go on, you meet the leader.
Yeah, and we're behind his desk,
and
you can see the pictures in the book. They've got the picture of me shaking hands with him, and he got a gun from inside his drawer and put it on the table.
Let me just give that a plug while we're here. This is Andrew's book, and you just brought it in nicely.
I
like your time. Trip has it, so I'm going to go away and read it, and I'll feed back to you on the show. But get yourself a copy of it because it's a weird and wonderful life. That's for sure.
And everything there's proven. So if anybody believes it's a load of old bullshit, which they say to me on social media, it's not true. It is. I can prove all of it.
There you go.
So anyway, we're taking down. He gets his gun out to show his power. This guy, and tells us about the tribes of Israel and how the indigenous white are only ones on earth and rule the earth, and these tribes, and he's talking all this bullshit, and we're like falling asleep. He tells us Ku Klux, where the name comes from. It's the bolt Ku Klux Klan. It was a noise that a rifle makes. So, fucking whatever. And then Ronnie's taken us, his guard said, right, Ronnie's going to take you for a little look around. And their main fear, and I thought, here we're going to be 8 whites and all this shit. But he was more angry at the rival Ku Klux Klan that had more followers than him. So when me and Ronnie went up to this other place, and Ronnie said we could get a kick in here. I thought, I don't fucking really want to kick him from the Klan. I ain't going to go down to. Anyway, all went by. We've had more conversations with him. He's talked a load of shite. He's taken us to his armoury, taken us to his little church with his little thing where he has his little congregation, comes with their hoods and that. And then as we're leaving, we bought some souvenirs. You can go to his little bit in the front and buy a belt with the KKK on it and a T-shirt with the blood eye and everything else. A load of old bollocks. And anyway, he told us about a load of shit. But as we go, there's something that I thought was the funniest thing. He had like a daughter that a suspicious relationship. There's lots going on that shouldn't be. I'm sure if you had, there's some...
They sound a bit backward. Yeah.
Red flags. And as I go out, he stopped me. He said, Andrew, I must ask you something. I said, what's that? What do you want to ask me? He said, can you keep me up with what's happening in Downton Abbey? I fucking pissed myself. You're the Klan. You're fucking watching Downton Abbey.
He won't be happy about a few of the DEI hires in Downton Abbey out the back. There's period setting it isn't quite on point.
No, it wasn't.
That's what he's probably gone to the Klan for. It's driven him to the edge.
He's the only man that's threatened to kill me and all. Because when I got home, the Sun, we wrote the story. Mind you, the Mail, another sneaky bastards, the Daily Mail.
What's that? What's the Sun?
The Sun newspaper.
It doesn't exist up here.
Where they stitched me up and all.
Is that still for sale?
Yeah.
It doesn't even get sold up here. Yeah, the scum.
Yeah. Well, anyway, where the Mail, whilst I was there, said, don't sell that story. It's ours. Whatever you do, don't sell the story. So I thought, all right, you'd put 500 quid in our account. We thought, lovely job, we're not going to sell the story. The reason they got us to hold the story is because them fuckers sent some people out while we were there, so we didn't write our story and didn't sell it, so they could do the story and do it themselves, sneaky bastards. But that's normal, innit? That's just like...
Gazumping you?
Yeah, didn't really care anyway. But when I got back, I rang the Sun, and they got into it and they said, we'll send you back. Get a full hooded ceremony, which happens in October, apparently. I don't know why. And I rang Travis Piss. On my way back, mate, I'm coming to take part in one of your hooded ceremonies. And he go, you come back here, I'm going to kill you. I go, why? He said, I've looked on your social media, I've looked at your stuff. You're not the sort of character we want. I said, cheers, mate, bye. Yeah, but I'm going back to knock on his door.
Yeah, well, again, I always feel, do they have any kind of religious... So it's like the Joseph E. Smith stuff with the golden plates, which is... weirdly, they don't really have a problem though. The Book of Mormon's done season after season in London, and everybody goes and laughs at it, and it's all right to laugh at it. But then if you do that to another religion, well, there's a few religions if you do that too, they don't find it hilarious. And I'm imagining, obviously, the KKK, as weird as it is, I always seen it as a kind of redneck backward, mixed with religious symbology as well as call themselves wizards.
That
fairy tale
sums them up
fantasy.
Probably pretty much. That's
I've
about
never
it.
met them.
Well, you've actually summed them up better than I can.
And I've seen, obviously, the stuff that people have done when they've gone and met with them. And it's almost like people who have, they've just been unfortunate to be born in the wrong part of the world.
Yeah,
they've been corrupted by
they're what I call dick-dacks. But that's exactly what they are. But Louis Theroux, he contacted me because he wanted to do Shamima, his office. But then I've seen that he's now concentrated his time on doing the settlers in the West Bank. He's just got that new documentary.
I've seen a little bit of this.
Settler.
I will watch that. I do think...
I've met the settlers.
Yeah, I will be interested to see
I've been out there and done that. I went to... The thing is, that's why I'm a little bit of an anomaly to the media. Because when you argue, you've got these protests, these Palestinian protesters, some of it might have been bombed the shit out of. But I say to them, look, if you really are bothered, why don't you go?
So explain to me what you're saying there. I've been to see the settlers. So who are the
inside
settlers?
Jerusalem, what happens is it's in the West Bank. So the Palestinians live in these houses around the West Bank, around Jerusalem, one side of Jerusalem.
Part of Israel.
Yeah, and okay. Bethlehem is in there, and you've got Hebron, and then down to Gaza, down to the Strip. So it's all kind of Palestinian area. And what the rumours, and it did happen because I saw it, they kick out Palestinian families and put in these Hasidic Jews, some from New York, will go into these areas and settle.
These the ones with all the curls and all that? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Hard line, yeah.
Yeah, the hard line. They settle there and kick out the Palestinians and
I've
cause
seen
unrest.
this where they've like chopped their olive trees down, or they've ruined the land they
Yeah,
were
of
on and
course.
just thrown them off the land.
Because that's why October happens in October, because a lot of people don't say it in the press. I don't know. You know, they had in the kibbutz got attacked by Hamas in
See,
October.
my uncle Tom went and worked on a kibbutz, so weirdly I know what a kibbutz is, but the viewer won't. A kibbutz is like a commune, would you say?
It is, yeah, like hippie
where you
commune.
work for your board.
Yeah. Well, these kibbutz down there is where, you know, Hamas come in with those gliders and killed.
Oh, on October 7th.
In October. The reason October, a lot of people don't say why, because October is the riot and killing fest time. So people haven't bought that in. But I don't understand. These people are supposed to be educated because it's olive picking season. So that's why October happens. That's why it happens in October.
What, so they get them just after they've got the olive
Yeah,
yield,
that's it.
so they can steal the olives or something?
Yeah, well, the IDF are supposed to, because some of these olive fields are inside Palestinian territory, and then the IDF then destroy it, so they say.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say anti-Israel previously. I have got in a bit of a disagreement with the former player who played for Israel, Yossi Benayoun, about kind of what's gone on in the kind of West Bank and Gaza and some of the atrocities that we see in the media here. Always off with the caveat of we don't really, you know, unless you've been on the ground, it's tough to really know what's really going on. Then October 7th happens, which is, you know, absolutely disgusting in terms of, you know, kids who've gone to a music festival and innocent people, you know, not military people slaughtered. Yeah. But then you understand there's a bit more context to it. I'm not trying to make excuses for Hamas or Hezbollah or whoever gets involved in it, but you understand that there's a lot more context than just October 7th, albeit, you know, if 1,000 British people were taken hostage by Scotland or Wales, then you would want the government to do something about it. Yeah. The other side of that being, when you know or you understand that situation, you have to accept it's really, really volatile region. It has been probably for the best part now of, you know, at least 80 years since, well, even further back into the Balfour Agreement. You know, for me, I remember Yasser Arafat, Bill Clinton, and we kind of have, like we have in Ireland now, Northern Ireland, a kind of peace agreement. And I'm imagining once the big superpowers of the world, you know, deal the cards they're dealing, we will have peace again in the Middle East. Temporary peace, but peace.
I don't know about that.
Maybe not now. Maybe it's too far gone now.
I mean, I met with Yasser Arafat's bodyguard and his son, who was locked up, because everybody gets locked up there. So when I was in the West Bank, I went to Bethlehem, and there was riots because you got the Church Nativity, which is what we all think of Bethlehem. We all sing about little donkeys and things. But down in in Bethlehem, there's an orchestrated, and it has been for years, where the Palestinians bring these great big silver bins out, set fire to them, and then the trainee IDF, then fight back. And it happens every week. I went, my kind of Palestinian guide said, look, if you want to come down here and watch it, news crews will be down here. They know it happens, what day it is, and it's orchestrated.
So is this to garner favour in the West and get support for the cause from whichever fraction? So obviously you've been there and experienced that. You're way more versed to give an opinion on it than us. Where do you see that like conflict? And you can perfectly tell me to fuck off as well. Do you mean?
To be honest, when I was only there a few years ago, when I went there, I was pro-Palestinian before the war started. I was pro-Palestinian because I went to a place called Hebron, and you walk up amongst the market, and these Hasidic Jews throw bottles of piss. You can see there's a netting above you that they've put to stop the piss hitting the people. So they actually just throw things, and there's only a handful of them in this little area that sits above the marketplace in Hebron. And they walk around with machine guns, the Jews. So they walk the streets with machine guns, and if you're Palestinian, you can't be armed. So I thought it kind of seems unfair, you know, even have a knife or you get locked up. And the power of the Israeli forces against a weakened Palestinian. But then you don't realise, because into Gaza, it's completely different. They're powerful missiles. You've got Iranian missiles. And Hezbollah and Hamas have created something really evil. And they are killing Jews. And what happened on that October 7th? I mean, listen, I don't think there's a right and a wrong. I don't think it's the Jewish land for years, but then the Palestinians, so it's confusing, isn't it? So it didn't help when the Americans moved their embassy to Jerusalem, which was a power shift. So the whole area, we've moved on to loads of different things now. The whole area is a hodgepodge of nothing. And it will never get resolved.
Thousands of years.
It have, and it will never get resolved because there is no resolution. Yeah. There is no resolution because to the land and the sea, and not only that, the Egyptians aren't helping. The Egyptians border them. They don't give any relief because they can't stand the Palestinians. So you've got a surrounded area. So what do? Do you make an autonomous state, Gaza? I think they do. I think it has to be...
According to Trump, he's going to make it a desirable holiday destination, isn't he? Yeah. Apartment buildings, the madness of Trump, and as well.
You wouldn't disbelieve it, would you?
Nothing would surprise me anymore, Andrew. Nothing would surprise me anymore. Yeah.
No, nor me. But I don't think that place. There's nothing left. I'm going there, so I'm going back there to because I met some people, Palestinians, and I know an Israeli pop star out there. So I'm going to go back. It's
a fascinating part of the world from a historical standpoint. Yeah. Obviously this is just one of the many conflicts that have been there.
Yeah.
Whether it's resolved or there's a band-aid put over it, we'll find out going forward. But again, I would imagine it'll be American and Chinese and Russian and
it's all money.
The geopolitical superpowers who will decide. Israel have got a phenomenal political arm, and the thing that strikes me about it, I do think there's a legitimate cause for Israel to defend itself after what happened on October 7th. I can also see the Palestinian arguments. So, for me, the problem I have is, are you telling me, how highly successful Mossad are as an intelligence gathering agency?
Unbelievable.
That they're missing what was about to happen with Hamas on its borders. I'd be very, very surprised.
That's a question we've all asked. How did they miss it? They didn't, did
how
they?
Have they? When they're capable of doing what we know or we think they're capable of doing on a global...
But they are.
Well, again, they do. They've
look what they did in Beirut.
Yeah, for sure.
Look what they did. They took out major players in Beirut.
Well, again, and you go, it's like the Twin Towers coming down in 2001.
How could they not...
How's that not?
None of us know. And then we got those pictures where did the planes hit and things like that, where they detonated before, and the conspiracy theories.
Yeah, and again, I mean, there has been lots of conspiracy theories. Some have been proven true in my lifetime. So you will have seen more of that from the earlier conflicts that you'll have,
of course,
downloaded on your journey. I wanted to ask you, what responsibility do you feel, or do you feel any responsibility for the people whose stories you tell? Especially the ones that are in kind of conflict or danger zones.
The biggest responsibility I felt was to that guy in that sniper pit, because everybody forgets him. We forget, and we see a British soldiers fighting in Iraq. This guy was fighting for our freedom and fighting for his own freedom. I felt a big weight of pressure on my shoulders to come back and tell his story, and I'll continue telling it because it moved me to tears. When he told me, it was for an interpreter, and it's hard to cry when somebody's... how you're getting a bit older now, not as old as me, but you get the emotions come out, don't they? You cry at things, so you may not.
Yeah, you're mature, and you think that wasn't important to you, you're becoming.
And that to actually... And even when I relay the story of him looking for that sniper rifle at his house, and his wife and children his wife definitely would have been raped. I do feel it heavy. And I told a story just recently... in Aldershot about the asylum seekers hotel, where this young girl, she's 13, family come to me and said, would I do something with the story? And I felt, I don't generally do it. Got front page of the Express, which I'm really proud of. Because this poor little girl, there was riots in this immigration hotel, the Potters Hotel in Aldershot. They were demonstrating not for Southport, but it got mixed up in all that lot. They were demonstrating the hotel, and they got soldiers on the street living in doorways who can't get homes. And it fills people up when you've got illegal immigrants living in kind of splendour. So there was a demonstration of banners and whistles. The police arrived, and this young girl got caught up with the crowd, ran, kicked a door, and got arrested. Police said she wasn't going to be prosecuted, but then she went to Crown Court, this little girl, and she got sentenced to suspended in child care or whatever it was, and that would have stayed on her criminal record for 100 years on a DBS check. And that story was just that I felt I had to tell, and it was one that I probably haven't done myself any favours for. There was no political reason. I just felt it's just wrong that a 13-year-old child could be done just for bravado.
Kid, baby.
And then another man, I've just done another story, I think it was in the front also, it was just inside the front cover about a guy who went to the riots because he wanted to show off his turkey teeth. And he did a year and a half. He got sentenced to 2 years.
For the teeth?
God, I could do some turkey. But he went to show his mates turkey teeth and got dragged in and did 2 years in prison in Winchester.
Fucking hell.
So the world's a changing place, isn't it?
I was going to ask you that. I was going to say, how was your work being received by the public and the actual profession changed in an age of kind of social media? Because obviously, I know you look fantastic for it, mate, but you look like you are aware of the world before the internet.
Yeah, it was, because of the experience I've had. The changes are remarkable. It's like, I mean, I'm not really political because I don't really care. I mean, colour doesn't matter to me. I think that we're in injustice with illegal immigration. I think it's wrong, it's illegal. And just watching, be careful, like even talking now, we're doing a podcast and we're having a great time, we're chatting, it's like two mates chatting in a pub. But aren't you worried? Do you worry about what you say? You know you've been in court. And you worry.
After me, yeah.
You just go, bleh, bleh, bleh. What? You know, you go, have I said too much?
I just don't care anymore. I'm beyond care.
I know, but it's ridiculous because I know some of the things I've done recently, TV won't touch me anymore. But I don't want to do TV anymore.
Who wants to be part of it? You know, Jimmy Savile was the king of TV, wasn't he? You know, that many more who want to be part of it.
Like I talked about.
The world's changed. Social media's changed it. You are you know, Elon Musk.
Yeah, this is the news.
You are the media.
This is the news. I've had a better time talking to you today than any of my interviews. I mean, you're talking about the lead, Piers Morgan, I think I did Eamon Holmes a couple of weeks ago and things like that. So I've done loads of them, but this is more like it. This is like two blokes talking, isn't it?
Well, I think Rogan and the guys who've pioneered the kind of podcasting space have shown that this is what people want. They don't want the edited fucking propaganda pieces. No. You know, I think, you know, whether they're on the life journeys from wars to COVID or whatever, people have seen through that these are full of shit.
Yeah, they are.
And they want to interact with, you know, people who are genuine, who just want to, you know, shoot from the kind of...
I've had enough of gangsters, though. I've had enough of gangsters on social media, listen to gangster videos.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Done with them.
Yeah.
Mate, he's been in prison. I know it works for people, but it's not my cup of tea.
Well, again, you're quite diverse and, you know, you do keep people guessing with your body of work, where you pop up next. You know, I would also say in that age of social media... You know, you ship your stuff before that and you put it out, and then, you know, you get feedback in the industry. Whereas with social media now, you know, people have got an opinion on absolutely everything.
I've had death threats.
So what do you make of criticism of your work? And sometimes, you know, does that sensationalising, because we all need to sensationalise our content to get it to catch. You know, does that cause a bit of suffering for you from time to time?
I'll tell you the truth and everything, because everything I can say can be proven. But it's what got to me first. I don't know about you, Joe, because you seemed a bit more tougher than me. I got upset the first bout. Now I couldn't give a fuck. I could not give a shit about. I've had death threats, couldn't care about that. Some people said, "Are you shagging Shamima Begum?"
Not yet.
I've had all of that. I've had all that. Mrs. come home, you go. She's kind of, you know, you see all the things on social media because people don't realise. Now I don't kind of read so much. I'll read yours and read what we say about this. I bet a load of people go, a load of old bullshit and crap like that, because they always do. But it don't bother me.
Yeah, again, Rogan's like, you've just got to ship, haven't you? If you're creative, I always think of that kind of painters. You just create and then let other people judge it. It's hard to do because, you know, you want people to like your work. You want people to receive it well.
You want to like you, don't you? We want to be liked.
But also, I always remember a great mate of mine, he's no longer with us, and he said, Joe, you can go through life pleasing everybody, and the minute you turn your back, they'll go, fucking hell, he's too nice him. You've got to do what's genuine to yourself. You know, you've certainly done that in your profession, Andrew.
Listen, I'm proud of myself, I am.
Well, I was going to say that to you. I was like, on reflection, you know, what would you say to, you know, other aspiring journalists who maybe one day open to following your footsteps?
Be you. I think the difficult is that the reason I've done so well and got to places and opened doors up is by being genuine and being honest and be me. I don't try and be what I'm not. I'm me. I mean, if I have a conversation with someone like we're talking now, I'm me. I don't have an alter ego. I don't have another person. I don't bring out something. I'm just me, like you.
And you're genuinely interested in your topics, aren't you?
I love my
topics.
It's
not because you think this is going to be the biggest.
Passion.
Yeah. This is something that you're like, I actually want to find out more about this.
Yeah, I mean, we've touched on it now, haven't we? We've touched on loads of things. We could talk for another 6 or 7 hours, or we could talk, you know, more stories. We touched on the stories because there's so many years. And I think life without a story is not a life. You have to live something, don't you? And I'd say, you know, to more people, like my son, I wouldn't want him to do this, but I want him to take a journey. Don't be a nobody. Be a somebody, because you come to a time when we all leave this coil, and that's us done, innit? You can't go back and do it again. No regrets.
One goal, mate. Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
You got to make the.
And you made a good go at football.
Well, I'm trying to just have a go. We're just getting after it. I mean, they've cancelled me a little bit now. I'm just like, well, I'll just fucking do something else.
Cancelled you what? From social media?
From pretty much my profession, I would imagine.
Oh, you mean these? And also, because I suppose...
I'm cancelled from pretty much everywhere. I honestly am.
Why though?
Just am. I think I just rub people up the wrong way.
I might be cancelled soon then. I don't give a shit neither.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't bother me. I see it as a badge of honour. I'm like, well, I've just been myself. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. It's not... I'm not here to try to get you to like me, because usually the people you like aren't the type of people that I want to aspire to be.
See, no, kind of spending time with you. I mean, if you want my honest opinion, my son said to me, because I didn't really want to do much of these anymore, but my son said, he didn't know who Piers Morgan was because he doesn't into that shit, but he knew who you were. That he goes to private school, because I know you feel like you're traitor to you not, but you give your kids something better.
You've got to give your kid the best chance you can,
but
yeah? Whatever you say.
They all love you. So his mates were saying, tell him, do it, do Joey, yeah, do Joey. Because you know why? Because there's something about you that it's not, I know you swear a lot and you say a few things, but they actually they feel personal to you, feel like, they can actually identify
we're trying
to
you. Make sense of the world we're in, and obviously using all the pitfalls and the failures to go, look, none of us are perfect. This is the journey we've gone on. Got it right sometimes, got it wrong a load of times we got it wrong. But we're trying to make head and tail of what's going on in the world around us. And in the process of that, Andrew, and as I say, I could speak to you myself for 5 or 6 hours, you're trying to get, the BBC's role in my life as a kid was to educate and inform. It no longer does that. It pushes political symbology, and ITV is the same. And I go, right, where are these kids going to consume the media? Because if we just provoke a thought in them, or, they see like the Lars album, they go, fucking, I'm going to listen to that. Well, maybe some stuff spins out of that. And I think our job is to help future generations. There is a saying, I don't know who it's attributed to, that a society grows great when men plant trees of which the fruit they're never going to get a sample. Too many people, I believe, on this journey that we're on have got main character syndrome, and they want to not only eat all the fruit off the trees and store it away for a
Where do you get this from, Joe? I don't see this from you. This is fantastic. Where is that from? Did you just bring that out?
You're just talking, mate. Yeah, just talking.
That is just phenomenal. Yeah. That's so true, isn't it? You do get people want to consume everything.
But also, you've got to put back in. Like, I'm on a process now, and I'm like, right, how do I find my way of putting back in? Obviously, first and foremost, first protocol is my own family, my own kids.
Yeah, of course.
And I think I'm getting to a position now where I'm, experienced enough to try and reach out. And then it's interesting for me. People shut me down, and I'm going, I actually don't want anything from this other than to really reach back in and go, that could have been me. If the wind would have blown in a different way and the cards would have come out a different hand for me, I could well have gone down the wrong path. And I always look down and go, oh, fucking hell, what could have been?
You had that
now, by the way, I still got in a lot of scrapes and lots of trouble, mate.
But that's where we come from anything else. I've got to take you to task on something, though. Aldershot Football Club. I am... been watching Aldershot. Now, I've got to say this, and I hope you put that out there, even if you cut it up. And
we'll put it as...
We're going to Wembley, right? We're going to Wembley, right?
When is that, next week?
On Sunday, right?
Okay. Who are you playing at Wembley?
Sittingbourne.
Okay.
And anyway, funny, this is like all your stuff moving to one, and I watched your little clip about Tommy and everything else at the moment.
Tommy Widdrington, you're on
yeah,
about
Tommy, yeah.
Is he still your manager?
He is at the moment, but he's... biting for a contract, and most Aldershot fans kind of marmite with him because, I mean, I pay into the club. I don't see him much. I see his face. He smiles. We move on. They just take my money, and I love the club, and I will carry on paying to that club because that's my club. 50 years. We've been waiting to go to Wembley for 99 years, and this is such a big occasion. And coming up, he kind of drew a blade into me, going, I hope everybody wins, and I want to see his face. I'm going, I get that. But most of my Aldershot fans, if I didn't speak to you about it, because all my mates, they love you, but they go,
now I've met you, I want Aldershot to win, but not for him.
Now that's what I get. I
don't know anyone at Sittingbourne, but I want them to win for you, Andrew, and your mates, and what you've put into the club.
Man,
but he's honestly one of the biggest charlatans I've ever come across. The most disingenuous, dishonest person I've met a few of them, and in our industry there is a load of people like that. But he was like, it was like when a lion has a fucking nit on its thing. That's what it was for me. Yeah. Although he thought he was a lion, And he very, very quickly realised he wasn't. But it was because he was disingenuous, playing games, power games, trying to manipulate, as I see him doing with your chairman recently, when he was talking about players' contracts.
You mean the video that he gets about the players? But we can't
when he was talking about the chairman needs to make his mind up, almost holding Wembley hostage over your fans and your board and your structure to make sure he gets a new deal and his players get a new deal, or you mightn't win at Wembley. It almost felt like he was ransoning the club a little bit via the interview.
He would have seen me about the club because obviously sponsoring games and have my boards up around the ground and my time. He hasn't spoke to me, but as a manager, we all question him, don't we? As supporters, we all think we can do a better job.
One of the few professions.
Yeah, we haven't had a great season, but this Wembley to me is my life because as a football fan, which we all are, have 90 odd years, it's such a big occasion for us, as you can see. This is one of the biggest things in my life, and we just talked about what I'd done. So I'm glad you said you wanted to win.
It's quite bittersweet for you because if you win, you've got more years of the waffler.
I don't think we have.
And if you lose, obviously you don't want to lose at Wembley. So sometimes it feels great in the moment. Because of the way he structures the environment, basically I think he's a compulsive liar. Yeah. And my experience of him is that, and quite malevolent at a level with it. To make it, he's got main character syndrome. He wants to be the king. Now, I suppose there's an element of all of that in all of our personality, but also you'd rather be in a great kingdom than be king.
I'm happy where I am.
Becoming king comes with enormous responsibility, and I always believe in making as many kings as you can, making everybody valued, everybody important. By the way, to do that, sometimes you've got to lop off people who are disingenuous, and they don't like you and they tell stories about you.
I think you said when you see him, you're going to get his comeuppance. Yeah,
I mean, he literally is, as I say, a peculiar guy, but also there'll be loads of people who see me in the same boat. But I really struggle with people who can't tell the truth. Now, I get we all are a little bit economical with the truth, and we don't always live a life of absolute truth because that would be anarchy.
Yeah, but they're little ones. They're little ones not to hurt people generally.
Yeah, it's more to protect other people, or maybe if your wife says to you, "What does this look like?"
Where are we going with this?
Well, sometimes it's to keep the peace, isn't it? Because if you give your true opinion, you know it's going to come with a consequence.
Of course, yeah.
So, but there's also people who are actually quite mischievous with it, and then there's another tier which is actually quite malevolent with it, for their own ends and their own gain. And I just see him as somebody who he would run for the hills with me and maybe why he's avoided you at the club. People like that tend to avoid people like us for fear of being exposed.
Yeah, he kind of never really spent any time with me or whatever, but I haven't
for fear of being exposed, I would imagine.
I would imagine this will make him maybe a little bit, because all the club know me, the chairman knows me, everybody knows me at the club.
Well, I was actually Paul Mack and Justin Rose. I know we're big Aldershot fans and speak to them, and I've never really got into it with them because I didn't want to, give my opinion and sour the pot at Aldershot.
Would you take the job on at Aldershot?
I wouldn't want to go in his shoes again like I did at Bristol.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be in your own shoes, wouldn't you? But
I'd have a conversation with it. It'd be interesting to see what they do, but I don't know. I never know. I'll never say never. I mean, I'm enjoying doing the podcast now and doing
20,000 we're taking to Wembley as a non-league team.
I mean, there's a man in a job who I don't like, and I think he might lower himself to these standards, but I'd never say never to anything. I'm always open to everything, but also I think it'd take an enormous thing for me to get back in at this minute. I've got 4 kids, my youngest being 2, my eldest being 13. I've really enjoyed this period out because it's allowed me to be a dad again. And when I'm in a football club, you end up being everybody else's dad rather than your own.
But you were good, because look what's happened to Bristol Rovers now.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad because it kind of proves my worth by other people's fuckery, but Fleetwood was the same. Fleetwood dropped out the division after nearly getting in the champ, and I don't want to give myself a pat on the back and blow smoke up my ass, because it isn't just me, it's a team with me, a team of lads with me, but also we tend to get good results and good cultures building at clubs, even if it does have to come through setting fire
Joey,
to one
you
or
miss
two
it,
people.
mate, don't you?
I will go back to it. I was talking to my mate today about some of the ideas I've got, because weirdly, Andrew, I've played in League 1 and League 2, Championship and Premier League. I've coached in Division 3 and Division 4, I grew up in the non-league scene because my dad played for Knowsley United, Norfolk, Victoria, Waddington Town, and our Josh and I played for Chorley, conference teams. Noah's a little bit similar to my dad's path. I also played in Scotland for a year and France for a year.
Yeah.
And going back and working at Fleetwood and Bristol Rovers, I think I've downloaded what it takes to build a football club from in to out, lottery funding, etc. So I think I'm uniquely placed amongst the...
Maybe I have to have a word with Shahid then. And
I don't know him, but if he hires Tommy Widdrington, but then Weil hired Tommy Widdrington as well, who I think's a phenomenal guy, really good guy, and he was let down, in my belief, by them and some of the shenanigans that went on. Luckily, we could cut the cancer out of the patient, Bristol Rovers. It was quite aggressive at the time, but we managed to just keep them from going into the non-league scene. I'm not sure they're going to do it with this current ownership structure, because obviously the guy who I was hired by sold the club for X amount of million. He sold a percentage, which is success in our business. You sell your business that was failing for more money, but that then brought in new owners that I was incompatible with, who have taking them to
incompatible with. I love that.
Taking them to the depths, mainly because they don't know what they're doing. You know, and if people don't know what they're doing and they try and tell me, I'm like, hang on a minute, mate. Sorry, but when you were, you know, fucking about elsewhere, you know, this has been my life's work. Just to get into the last couple of questions with you, Andrew, because I want to get you to reflect a little bit on it. Do you still think there's space for the kind of raw, on the ground storytelling that, you know, you've made your
social media has made it difficult because everybody's a journalist now, which is a good thing and not a bad thing. But the trouble is, my unique, and if there is anybody like me that doesn't have any political view, so you need to be able to tell a story. You need to have all of us got a view and opinion, haven't we? I've become a bit opinionated. My scars are I have a direction now. I never did when I first had it. So you need somebody that's open-minded to do what I've done. You've got much more of a forum with social media, haven't you? Because you can put your story out easier, where I couldn't in my day. I had to rely on some newspaper or somebody printing lies that I didn't tell them. Yeah. So there is a place. There always will be a place.
Okay, and after 25 years or plus of extreme journalism, what keeps you motivated? What keeps you going?
Oh, that's a fucking fantastic question. War. There's always war. There's always new stories. I mean, Ukraine happened. No one knew that was going to happen. They were down in the Donbass. I mean, that's just tickled my fancy. Unusually Gaza didn't, but there's loads of things that do. Now I want to do people smuggling, because I think nobody like myself have got involved. I know Somalia pretty well from my days in Somalia and the Black Hawk Down stuff. I knew people smugglers there said they would take me on a boat and I could follow from Somaliland right the way through to Britain. I don't know if I could face that journey.
America's the one as well, isn't it, across that Mexican-American border?
Yeah, so that would be great, wouldn't it, to actually experience that side of it. So I like that side of it. I want to stay in prisons. You got one up on me on that, I believe. But I mean, there's some of the bad prisons I've went to, some horrendous prisons I visited. I'd like to stay a night in some of them bad ones. So they're the things that tickle my fancy at the moment. But I'm getting old. I'm 60 this year.
Okay, well, he's still young. 60's young now. It used to be a retirement age. Now you're just getting started at 60. So is there anything we've missed that you'd like to talk about? Or
do you know what? There's so much we could talk. There's so many stories that we could go on.
Mate. Yeah.
But I mean,
fascinating guy.
I was sitting in my hotel room before we come out, and I thought, I don't know how to take this. I've just watched you on one of your podcasts, and some of the things, your triggers, your 15 seconds or 15-minute triggers, I didn't know what to expect. But you're a really nice guy. And do you know what? My kids tell me that.
Don't forget Shamima Begum led you up that path. I'll give you a hug at the end.
You've got better teeth than she's got.
Fucking hell, I could do it a bit.
But we could do more Shamima at the end, I suppose. We can talk about, how bad she was. But I think that it's all been out there. But, for me, it's been a pleasure. I've had one of the greatest 2 hours I've had of conversation, and I mean that.
So to finish, let's finish on Shamima, then we'll finish on her.
Honour? I've been accused of that. I ain't touched that
Not
woman.
Not again.
I ain't doing that.
So you obviously said you liked her, and now you've had a completely different, it sounds like a 360 on her.
Yeah, she...
Well, 180, sorry, 180.
Where we go with these conversations? I think because...
No one will edit it to sound better, don't worry.
No, you carry on. I don't care. Because of her conversations that we had, she become narcissistic. And I know what they found on that phone. So what she did, she was sewing suicide vests onto people that carried out atrocities, to her own people, to Muslims. She blew up buildings, these guys that she had. And she was part of a thing called the Hatish. The Hatish a group of religious police that go beating other women with sticks for not to be appropriately dressed. She carried that out. She put fear into her own people and didn't care. And she said that the Manchester bombings were justified. Now, you tell me anybody would say killing children's justified.
I know, but and I don't agree with it, but also, as we spoke about
Hurt
earlier,
children,
one
Muslim
man's
children,
terrorism is another man's freedom fighter. And what brings me back to that is the troubles that were in Ireland and Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
You know, and then what we've seen happen in our lifetime with the peace agreement, Gerry Adams being, you know, a politician, Sinn Féin.
Yeah.
And again, there was, you know, coming from Liverpool with the big Irish community.
Yeah, you've got the Irish community. But
and also with its history, you know, growing up just after the Toxteth riots. You know,
I get that, but that will always bear down on me. The fact is that, I mean, I spent time in these refugee camps who were victims of her. She didn't once try and leave. She said she loved her husband at the beginning when I first met her, and then she hated him, wanted him dead by the time I left her. She may be fighting for survival, but I think she said her last words with me were, I wrote a newspaper story and I will find this guy from the Express. And you know, like you said, you can have your comeuppance. This one guy he lives out somewhere in the Middle East. I wrote a story as a freelance journalist about Shamima has the fear of going to trial under the Assad regime at that time, or under the SDF. He took my story and said Shamima has a fear of being hung. They don't have the hanging, they're not barbaric. The SDF almost almost said to her, I could never go back into Syria again because this journalist from the Mail, he had to make an apology. But Shamima's parting words were, she said, you've sold me out. And I said to her, you've sold your country out. They were my last words to her.
Okay, and this is the last question I'm going to ask you. You can decline to answer this if you don't want to.
I'll answer everything.
So you're now, Fantasy World, you're now tasked at the Home Office with being in charge. You're one of the few people who's met her multiple times, shared many, many conversations with her. Would you allow her back into the country, as some on the left are advocating for?
No. What she stood for, what she's done, let me tell you, the tents inside her prison camp have all been burnt from some of the less extreme girl. Why hasn't hers? When I was there, they've got full conversation on telephones. Some of them were getting married to ISIS chiefs when I was in there, telephone marriages. She has never come up under any attack by anybody in there, even the real radical Muslims.
So
she is dangerous.
A Trojan horse?
She could well be. That's my view of her. She could be the Trojan horse. She could well be. I look in her eyes and I see nothing now.
Yeah, we can't take the risk, can we?
No, we can't.
Can't take the risk.
No, we can't.
So can people read more in the book?
Yeah, there's other stories in there that we haven't mentioned today because they've gone too long.
And go into more detail, so on and so forth. But I'm looking forward to reading that. This is
Joey, I will quiz you.
Yeah, listen, Trip Hazard, Andrew Drury. Where can they get it? Where can the guys?
You can buy it from all good book shops. A new book coming out called Shamima Begum, or my son calls her the Big Shammy B.
All right, so make sure you get involved and read up and do your history if you're going to formulate an opinion. Listen, Andrew, that's been Common Sense with me, Joey Barton, and the wonderful Andrew Drury. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Joey. Feel privileged.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Cheers, mate.